Are you searching for the best in online black radio? Then go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, helping you filter through the noise. Real talk, black talk.
The internet is full of half-truths and all-out lies. We've all seen them, and many people on social media complaining about it. Here's your chance to show and prove. WorldAfropedia.com is a black-owned and operated encyclopedia. There are several thousand articles, but we need help. We can't uncover all the truth ourselves. So please, join us and become a writer, editor, or blogger for WorldAfropedia.com today. Every little bit counts. We owe it to the future generations to put the truth out there. Visit WorldAfropedia.com, the African-centered encyclopedia, a global database of African knowledge for the purpose of bringing about global African wisdom and understanding. WorldAfropedia.com.
$20 million. That's what former Fox News anchor Gretchen Carlson won in a settlement last week after claiming her former boss at Fox, Roger Ailes, retaliated against her for rejecting his sexual advances. Hers is a high-profile case, but there are plenty of others. Retaliation claims are increasing, now outnumbering other discrimination complaints, as NPR's Yuki Noguchi reports.
It felt like surrender when Lorraine Siegel finally gave up her tenured professorship at a community college teaching English.
I was different. I was the only Jewish lesbian. I was extremely competent and good at what I did, and I stood up for other people who were targets as well.
Siegel, who lives in Santa Rosa, California, says her vocal objections made her unpopular with fellow faculty. They kept information from her, denied her classroom space, and wrote a scathing review based on anonymous comments.
And I refused to sign off on their evaluation.
After seeking legal counsel, Siegel got the review rewritten. But 2 decades of such experiences wore her down, and she eventually left. Retaliation cases now exceed claims of race discrimination, making up nearly half of all complaints filed with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Legally, retaliation is firing, demoting, or harassing a worker because they complained or filed a discrimination charge. Experts say over half of retaliation cases are perpetrated by managers, but retaliation can also include bullying as a form of retribution. Catherine Mattice founded Civility Partners, a consultancy focused on changing hostile work culture.
I hear a lot of people say I was a whistleblower and I was bullied as a result of that.
She herself faced an office nemesis in a previous job who demeaned and berated her and others. Her work suffered. She posted notes to herself saying, "Get up," on her alarm clock. After begging the company president to intervene, he told her to leave immediately.
He watched me pack my things and I left that day. Was I retaliated against? Maybe. Should I have seen an employment law attorney? Probably.
Mattice says retaliation can exist in a gray area and advises others to save nasty emails and document the incidents. Carol Miaskov is assistant legal counsel for the EEOC. She says the abuse can take many forms. A manager might retaliate through a demotion, bad evaluation, or undesirable assignment to make it seem legitimate. Coworkers might exclude their colleague.
Sometimes people can be really creative about how they retaliate because the goal is to not seem like you are retaliating.
The behaviors are often juvenile and underhanded, she says, but the emotional damage is real.
I've definitely been bullied, and it was horrible. Indeed, sometimes when I think about why did I go into civil rights law, I think that bullying and what that can do to you is one of the things that drives me.
Gary Namey is director of the Workplace Bullying Institute. He says bullying and retaliation are cycles that tend to escalate.
They escalate their campaigns of persecution because they cannot stand being exposed.
He says the worst cases can lead to suicide, though that often doesn't clear matters up. The problem gets reinterpreted as a mental health issue.
Even in the face of suicide, I find that corporations and government agencies still do not punish or demote any of the managers who are responsible for the mistreatment.
Many workers persist amid difficulties for economic reasons, he says, but just as many stay out of a desire to stand up to injustice. Yuki Noguchi, NPR News, Washington.
So counter-racist science, which is what we are supposed to be trying to evolve now, is supposed to be different. That when you say things and when you do things, they take effect. And it happens as an individual. See, I imagine most of you are tired of doing what I did for years, going to meetings, feeling fine, and then going back on the job the next day doing the same old thing, acting the same way, having the same value system, talking the same nonsense, getting on the elevator, insulting people as black males usually do, which is something I'm going to talk about tonight, elevator insults. I want to say that right now while it's on my mind. Stop it, particularly black males, in a place where you know a lot of people where you work. You ever notice black people on an elevator? Okay, we should, to start right now, it's a set rule in counter-racist logic. Get on the elevator and say good morning. When you get to your floor, get off and say have a nice day. That's it. Don't say nothing else. If black people could just do that much, you'd be miles ahead. The white supremacists will wonder what's going on. You're not high-fiving, looking in the back of the elevator when you get on in front and look over everybody's head and insulting somebody that you know on the back. Hey, man, how come your eyes so red? That's your black male. See, you're entertaining. See, stop being an entertainment committee. Black people get around white people and immediately start monkey shining. So it's understandable considering our condition and the way we've been programmed, but you resist it. So we need a code. Just like the illustration I gave you just a while ago. Get on the elevator. Say good morning to everybody on the elevator, black and white, just one time. Say good morning. You know, one size fits all. Turn around and face the front. Ride to your floor. Get off. Say have a nice day. Not get on with a, hey man, what you doing, man? What you think about them Oakland A's, huh? I know you had your money on it. That's black people. See? Oh man, you know where the A's can go and you too. See? And then they get into a thing of insulting each other. It degenerates immediately into elevator insults. This is Monday morning. This is how you start your day. Yet we talk about some black pride, black this. We don't have a method of doing anything. And we got to itemize everything because you know how we are. If you don't itemize everything for black people, they'll get lost in a minute. Which is not because we are just by nature dumb or inept. It's because this is the result of this monolith called white supremacy. They have a code. White males, men, do not like to talk to black males, even when they try, because their conversation is limited. Isn't this the truth? After we get beyond, after he'll start it off by saying something about the weather. That's always an opening. Then sports. You know, what the football team or the basketball team is going to do. And then, if they really know each other, have had a couple of conversations before, sex about black females. See, he's not going to stand up here and talk to you about white women. And black males know this. And black males don't talk to white men about white women. All right? But he'll stand up there and help a white man talk about a black female right there on the job. White guy say, hey, how you like that number? Oh, buddy, oh, buddy. This is us. We say, yeah, she's sure shaking that thing. Yeah, like to get some of that. That's your black male. White woman passed by, and he's talking about the weather. Wait till the next black one comes by. And then we will kill each other talking about somebody dissing. Dissing? You're being disrespected 24 hours a day and kicked from pillar to post. And I have concluded that the purpose for all of the people sitting in this room, unless we have some white people here, is to eliminate white supremacy and produce justice. Now, how do I come to this conclusion? Because it's the only thing that everybody's still talking about. The wall came down. All of a sudden, no more communism. Gone in one swipe. See? And a lot of the people, white people who used to call themselves communists, are now saying, I understand you have some jobs over there that some black people have, and I'm coming after with my little blonde-haired, blue-eyed children and get a bunch of them. Same jobs that you got. I always say white people are not unemployed because they have a job as long as I have one. Because when it comes right down to the wire, they can get mine. Because all they have to do is walk in there and talk to another white person and they got the job. If it comes down to the wire. See? You can't keep yourself from being fired. Believe me. Not when the white supremacists decide you are going.
Context of White Supremacy. Gus T Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Today's date, Thursday, September 15th, 2016. So I have been told. This is our weekly broadcast on workplace racism. We encourage non-white listeners to dial in if you have observations, problems, particularly if you have figured out some strategies that have worked for you to minimize conflict, racist attacks, sexual harassment, problems with other white coworkers and or non-white coworkers, including supervisors, managers, etc. Dial in. This is not a spectator broadcast. This is not a program for non-white people to just hang out on the line, on the phone, wherever you are listening, and just be entertained, find amusement with some of the things that are shared on this program. This is a serious problem. I think for most of us, we spend a sizable chunk of time out of each week, out of most days of the week, on our jobs. And I think for most black people anywhere in the world, you are either directly experiencing white supremacy racism as a problem on your job, and or you are observing racism, white supremacy. It might be impacting other non-white people on your job. Somehow, some way you're seeing it on a regular basis. I think it's something that we should be talking about, coming up with strategies, ideas for how to try to neutralize these violations against us as best we can. As I state consistently, if we have non-white people, victims of racism, who are what they call self-employed, certainly it would be great for you to dial in and share some of your experiences with how you have experienced white supremacy being an entrepreneur. The number to dial, 641-715-3640. The code is 564943 pound. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. The number again, 641-715-3640. The code is 564943 pound. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. You will hear the audio prompt. Press the number 1, and I'll see your hand on the switchboard. We will get you on the line. You heard the audio clip. That was Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. giving some of his views, suggestions for the workplace. You also heard the segment before Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. That was from NPR, where they were talking about, I thought it was interesting, even though the first female she identified as being quote-unquote Jewish, I suspect that this was someone who is classified, is able to function as white, is able to practice racism, white supremacy. They just throw that quote-unquote Jew or Jewish thing out there to add some confusion. But saying that these claims of retaliation and what have you, that there are more cases of this now than racism, white supremacy, and again, in my opinion, it's whites that do the classifying. I suspect that frequently, if you're going to EEOC or if you go to Human Resources at your job, 10 times out of 9, and that is the way I meant to say it, they are going to say unfounded if a non-white person brings some sort of claim saying that they have been mistreated on the basis of race, that someone has practiced racism, white supremacy against them. They're going to say that is, ridiculous. We had a Kwanzaa celebration last year and we did diversity training. We, deplore racism. That is totally against what this company is about. And certainly we do not have any racists here, so it was not racism. That is about what you're going to hear if there's a claim of racism. So I found that was interesting, even though they did reiterate at the end about documentation. That's something that we mention all the time here, save emails, that sort of thing. Document if people are saying things to you, mistreating you, making vulgar or derogatory comments towards you, to document all of that information that can be used. That's something that we bring up on this broadcast all the time. Without further ado, people wrote in. My email again is untiljustice@gmail.com. Untiljustice@gmail.com. If you have scenarios, situations, if you figured out some codified techniques, you can drop an email and I will read on the air. Try not to wait till the end of the broadcast. Make sure that I get it in. But if you drop an email, I will make sure that we include it and we can keep it anonymous. I know people do have concerns about, getting in trouble with whites on the job. And that is one thing I wanted to say briefly. That's something that I hope people would keep in mind. It's totally logical, at least in my view. Numerous people have raised concerns about they have either their own personal problems with workplace racism and or they have observations of things they've seen on the job, maybe something that happened to someone else, but they have reservations about dialing in to share this publicly because they could be heard. A white person, someone that they work with, could hear it and they could get in trouble. They could lose their job. They're trying to take care of themselves or their offspring. That is 1,000% logical. That makes total sense. I just would hope that we keep that in mind, because it's been my experience that a lot of times we can be very quick to criticize other black people for not speaking out and doing something about racism. And good coon, you should have spoke up. You should have said something. I can't believe these no good Toms and coons and Sambos won't say anything. They might have the exact same concerns that many of us have about not wanting to get in trouble with whites. My quick PSA. Moving forward, our black female caller in Michigan, last week she wrote in. It was it was kind of close to when we were wrapping up the program. I did not see her email until we had signed off, so I told her to be patient. My apologies, and I would make it the number one email I read this week. Getting to it. I wanted to share my observations at the law firm I work at this week. They hired a white male secretary who unfortunately sits next to me, and he is very annoying. He does his best to try to start conversations with me, asking me for help and or just making unnecessary comments throughout the day. I think we have heard this from our Michigan caller before about them hiring a new white person, male or female, and them requesting, asking for lots of help, and specifically asking her, a black female, asking that she be the one to aid and assist them where they don't understand something. I have my headphones in, and I'm starting to think that the fact that I have the headphones in bothers him, because he will interrupt me as soon as he sees me put them in my ear. I just ignore him as if I didn't hear him, and it appears to be happening more frequently. Ugh. The firm has hired 7 new white people and has since implemented a mentor program to train the new employees and get them prepared for working at the firm. They are committed to helping each other succeed. You better believe it. Lastly, there is a Japanese company in my building, and I noticed how the Japanese males and females I encounter are very codified with their behavior. I pay close attention when they pass me in the hall, and especially when they get on the elevator, and many times I am the only person on the elevator with 3 or more Japanese, and they make absolutely no eye contact with me. They do not speak. They literally act as if I do not exist. I also noticed 2 to 3 times when a white person was on the elevator with me and the Japanese individuals, they ask the white person what floor they are going to, and they make eye contact with them. I found it very interesting, and their behavior is very consistent from what I've seen. Conclusion of field notes, no surprise there. Anti-blackness worldwide. Second observation. I had quite a few, so I'm not going to read all of them at the beginning. I'll probably read 1 or 2 more, and then I'll just kind of sprinkle in the other notes that people wrote in as we go. We even had some of our UK listeners shared workplace observations. I had been thinking about how I could incorporate them into the program. There's such a substantial time difference. They would either have to pre-record, or we'd have to see if we have any night owls, as they say, because it is, let's see if I can do my math really quick here. So it's 1 a.m. Friday morning for the folks who would be listening in London, England, with the 8-hour time difference, so it'd be hard for them to listen live. But some of our UK listeners did dial in with workplace racism anecdotes, and I can pitch really quick. Our global Sunday talk on racism is this Sunday, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. We will have callers joining in. I think we'll even have some new listeners from outside the states who will be joining us to give their views on white supremacy racism. Dial in if you can tear yourself away from the NFL season that is going on or whatever else is going down this coming Sunday. I think this might even be on the autumn equinox, but it'll be grand conversation. Observation number 2. This is from Thomas in New York. Maybe he'll be on the line to give us update to what happened. I just witnessed something that was absolutely astonishing. As I told you, I was not being trained properly by the white receptionist. She would use a computer program to transfer calls, and she had me thumbing through papers until my black coworker showed me a shortcut to transfer calls using the phone itself. I've been doing this every day for maybe a few months, and I'm pretty good and quick at transferring calls now using the phone. Using the phone has made my job easier. For example, they say the name, let's say, Gus Renegade. I put them on hold, press transfer, type in the first few letters of the person's first or last name using the telephone dial pad. Let's say I type in GU, then Gus Renegade will pop up, or I can type in REN, then Renegade Gus will pop up. Then I highlight the name and hit transfer. Whereas the computer program she uses is really stupid because in order to transfer the call, it takes too long to scroll through a screen of employee names in bubbles that are not in ABC order just to find Gus Renegade. She has the bubble locations memorized, so she likes that method. Today she left early. I came up to cover for her for the rest of the day. She logged off her computer so I can log in. She has a tendency to take her time when it is time for me to cover her break, which frustrates me because I have to stand there looking stupid until she decides she is ready to get up for me to sit down. She has to count her money, change her shoes to sandals, organize her papers, fix her hair and makeup, put on her sunglasses, etc., then give me a list of verbal instructions very loud so everyone can hear the same speech and instructions every day since I started. I think to give the impression that I am dumb. I would concur whites love to emphasize and demonstrate publicly to others that these are the dumbest nigger imbeciles in the galaxy, and you have to talk to them like you're talking to a 5-year-old. Continuing, I recently started to cut her off during her instructions by just saying as loud as her but pleasant, "Now you know, I know that, or did you forget you told me that yesterday," to shut her up. Today she was in a rush, so as soon as she saw me, she logged off so I can log in, but she took her sweet time to fix her makeup and pack her bag, and of course I had to stand waiting for her. Then the phone rang. Her face said it all. She looked as confused as I did my first day. She answered the phone and had to transfer the call without her computer program. She stalled and tried to play it off as she tried to use my method of connecting the call with the phone, but she couldn't do it. She was hitting the wrong buttons and bringing up the wrong directory. Then she picked up the papers she gave me to use when I first started, and I had problems using them, even though now I use them every day to sort the mail, so I have the papers down pat as well. In fact, I use them sometimes instead of the phone just to challenge myself. Another call came through at the same time, and she put the person on hold that she couldn't connect and switched lines to answer the phone for the next caller. She greeted the person and immediately put them on hold, then went back to the first caller to try to connect them to the person she was trying to find on the sheets. Every time she looked up for my help or assistance, I quickly looked the other way as if I was not paying her any attention, and I acted like I was distracted by something very important. It took her 3 minutes and 26 seconds, he counted, to connect the first caller, and by the time she got back to the second caller whom she put on hold, they already hung up. I realized in that moment that this lady who has been with the firm for 23 years can't do her job without the program in her computer. She is really clueless. But what if that program is offline or not working one day? What will she do? So as I finally got my chance to log in and prepare myself to be stationary as the receptionist for the rest of the day, she, instead of leaving in a rush, asked me to show her how to connect people using the phone. Not me, after the terrible training I got from her, which I guess was because she couldn't do it any other way. I told her I learned from the black coworker that I can't explain it, I just do it. She should ask him. I said that because I know she hates him and would never ask him for help. I had to chuckle. Fascinating observation from Thomas in New York. That has been an experience, I think, that has been shared repeatedly over the years when whites have to break down and ask some Negro on the job to help them when they really don't understand, not when they're just trying to nag and annoy you, practicing racism, wasting your time, but when they really don't understand something and they need you to help them so that they can do whatever it is that they're trying to complete like that. Oh man, to have to be earnestly ignorant and go to a Negro to help you out. Like, oh man, whites, it's been my experience, and I think other people have concluded the same. They absolutely hate that, work to avoid that at all cost. Alrighty, I do have other workplace racism incidents that people wrote in, but I will table those. We'll sprinkle them in as we go. Everyone who dialed in with a hand up, line should be open. Feel free to chime in. Again, remind folks this is not a spectator program. I am very sure with all the folks that we have listening, folks have observations, experiences, even if you're reflecting on your work history of things that have happened to you, how you responded, how you wish you had responded if you had a better grasp of white supremacy racism. This is not for spectators. Let us be active, counter-racist participants as we deal with the area of activity, labor. All the folks who dialed in, line should be open. Feel free to participate.
Yes, may I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Okay, greetings, Gus. To answer the rest of the callers. So, I went to Black Student Union last week, and I'm going to go again tomorrow, but it's an amazing club. It's where, when I went there, it was mainly black people. The only person that wasn't black was the principal, and he was white, so he was there spectating the program. So that happened. We talked a lot about, the first thing that came up was George Washington Carver, and we're going to be doing a lot of stuff like that. We're going to try and take a lot of field trips, especially to this one African museum, and explore that. I didn't go to Pride because I feel like it's not for me. I should just stick to Black Student Union, just to stay together as black people rather than just have Pride with everybody. But that's that about the club. I also, every time I walk home, I would notice that on the street that I walk towards, I would notice that everybody I see is homeless, and they're all black. Rarely any of them are white, and it's just, I just reflect on it every time just to know how messed up the world is and how they treat black people to where they have to sleep on the streets and do stuff like that. So it just really gets to me every single time I walk down that street. And, that's all I had to share. Thank you for taking my call.
our young scholar in the Bay Area. Always grand to hear from him. I think if people heard our segment last week on workplace racism, he shared about the two clubs at his high school in Bay Area, California. The Black Student Union, that's supposed to be, I think, exclusively for black students. And then they have this pride group. And I mentioned last week, I said that at least in my experience, that name, pride, nowadays tends to be associated with causes that are related to what they call gay rights or LGBT issues. And I think that group, everybody can participate. You don't have to be black or non-white. Any students can participate in that program, even though, if I remember correctly, the Pride group is also supposed to be focused on issues relating to racism. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, right on. Did you think that they were not going to talk about racism in that group, or was it just you thought, hey, I'd rather be in the group that's exclusively for black people, and I just don't need to be in the other one?
Well, I figured that they will be talking about racism and everything, especially that's going on in school that we don't know about. So that's another reason why I chose Black Student Union.
The comment about the transients, homeless people, as they say. For people, the Bay Area doesn't have an explosive population of black people. It is not like Atlanta or Philadelphia, Alabama, places, states, and or cities that have large populations of black people. There are black people there. It's not, Iowa or something, but I mean, they do not have a huge population of black people. So it, just further evidence of white supremacy that you have a higher concentration of black people that are in that position where they have no house and are just, in a destitute position. The last question I was just going to ask, what specifically were you all focused on in the Black Student Union about George Washington Carver?
Well, that was our introduction question, just to wake up everybody up. But what was discussed was that George Washington Carver, he's the person that invented peanut butter. That's the main thing they said. But I would have went on and said that I think he went to Tuskegee University. He had a effeminated voice, and because he was castrated as a child, and he was also a slave, basically. That's what we talked. That's most we talked about George Washington Carver.
They brought up the castration thing, or were you saying that was just information?
No, that's
okay.
Yeah, no, they didn't bring up that.
I was about to be astounded, but that is, as I said, young scholar being informed. I suspect there are a lot of older black people who do not have that information about George Washington Carver, who they generally only bring up when it's February. But that is outstanding. I hope you can continue to participate and maybe even bring up some of that information. I think George Washington Carver, he should also get credit. He saved white folks like big time when the boll weevil was wreaking havoc on crops. This is a pest, was wreaking havoc on crops in the 20th century, and he figured out a way to minimize the damage that they were doing to crops so that farmers would not lose their money. Like, that was pretty huge as well. I think one of our previous guests said he should have won a Nobel Prize for his effort with that and some of the many other things that he did. But generally, he just gets condensed down to the peanut, and right, we leave out all the other stuff. Him being castrated first and foremost, we certainly are not going to discuss. Outstanding. Thank you for the contribution, sir. Definitely keep us posted. What's going on in the Black Student Union group? What's happening at school? Just any observations that you have. That is your job, going to school and being a brilliant scholar. Keep up the outstanding work, sir.
Okay, thank you.
May I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Just real quick on that last note from the last call. I also believe, I may be wrong, but I also believe that George Washington Carver may have been friends with Henry Ford and had a hand in building the first automobile plant. That the Model T was the assembly line for the Model T, if I'm thinking correctly. But anyway, well, greetings to Gus, you, all the callers and the listeners. This is Ori here in Dallas. First off, I wanted to say that I enjoyed the sound clips in the beginning, especially the one about the elevator. That is exactly how I get on the elevator every single morning. If anyone's on there, I greet them. Don't say anything. I turn around and wait till I get to my floor, and I exit. And when I exit, I tell them, have a nice day. Also, you mentioned the EEOC, and that just reminded me of I used to work in warehouse back in the day. There was an old white lady who used to say she was always going to complain to the EEOC about the company, and she was going about that all the time. As for me, everything seems to be going fine on my plantation, but not for other non-white employees. I had 2 incidents this week. One was I was approached by a non-white black female about, I guess, time management, if you would call it that. Apparently her supervisor has been getting on to her about her time, and when we say time, I mean like, being 1 minute late or 2 minutes late. So what I told her to do was to document, and we're looking at documentation. One thing I told her to do was that since where I work at, we work in the office buildings, and they have a parking garage on the side. And so every morning with our little parking carts, we have to, swipe in to let us in. And so I told her she can go and actually get that all the time that she's, checked into the parking garage and checked out, and she can get all of that time printed out on a sheet of paper for her, and she can keep that just in case, that situation ever comes up again, and she can actually show, she was here at, this time or whatever. But, being a black person, especially in the corporate world, we're always held to a different standard than our white counterparts. So, my next situation was also earlier this week. A non-white black male lost his job. And I kind of knew the guy. I mean, I didn't talk to him a lot, but funny thing was I was standing in line getting ready to get lunch. And for some reason, all my workplace racisms, happen when I'm standing in line. I was the guy who emailed last week about the white female trying to touch my beard. And I was going to say, so I was standing in line and there was a black female behind me. And she tapped me on my shoulder and she was like, so-and-so lost his job, right? And I told her, no, I didn't hear that. And she went on to tell me about, why he lost his job. And apparently it was because he was spending too much time away from his desk when I guess he was supposed to have been in his desk. And so she was telling me all that stuff. Then she started saying, he may have been spending time with apparently there's a white girl that works there. And immediately when she started going into that, I don't get into, the gossip and everything. I immediately cut it off. And I'm not rude. I don't say, stop talking or whatever, but I find a way to get out of the situation. So, I told her like, oh man, I got to go make this phone call, or, I had to step away to go see what they were having in the lunch line. So, but that was about it. I'm eager to hear what everyone else has going on, and I'll mute my line for right now.
Interesting.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Oh, no, go ahead, Gus. I'll wait till you're done. I like to hear your commentary.
I was only going to say I thought that was a great suggestion with the first situation that you talked about, and encouraging your coworker to get the documentation for when she checks in, that you can get a log of, when she comes when she drives to the facility and all that, just so that if there's any sort of challenge or discrepancy about when she arrived and folks are trying to say that she was late, that, we can get it exact. Whites have all this, great newfangled technology. So let's just, see what the printout says. I thought that was great, and also might even be constructive just in terms of equal enforcement of policy. Is everyone being held to the same standard? I know in some places they have a grace period where you can be 5 minutes late or whatever. Discretion. So that would be something as well. With the second situation, that's another one. Those white chicks on the job, Just in general, why I state exactly what you said when you were being informed that this black male unfortunately lost his job, and perhaps because he was spending too much time with this white woman away from his desk. In terms of just being serious on the job, whites really pay attention to that sort of thing, particularly if it's that sort of dynamic, or it's a black male, white woman, and it looks like you all are frolicking a little too much, or you're getting along a little too well. Like, that just can go bad in a variety of ways, and just in general, get a reputation for being serious. As you said, I'm not here to gossip. I'm not here to hear what everybody did on their weekend, and who got a new outfit, or who got a new car, who's getting divorced, who's cheating on so and so. I'm here to do my job. Let's just be about our work. Speak to, as you said, hey, good morning, Helen. Good morning, Sue. Good evening. Let's just be about our business and get a reputation for functioning that way on the job. I think that always works in your favor as a black person victim of racism. Raj, you were going to comment as well, sir?
Yes, I had two things. First, I had a question for the high school student on the West Coast. I wanted to know if the Pride organization also includes LGBTQ people in that group.
He might have been disconnected. If we can get him to ring back, we'll answer. If not, we'll make sure to table and ask him when he dials back in.
No problem. And the other thing, I thought about the situation that Thomas in New York wrote in about, and that's something that I've noticed as a pattern with white people now, is that I think just from my research and from what I've seen, that white people spend their lives trying to practice deception in all over the place, like in all areas of activity. And the biggest deception is that they're smart. I really don't think they're smarter than anyone that's non-white. What I've always thought about them is that they're more cunning. And what they find is a way to utilize non-white people who they've brutalized into submission and brutalized into a submissive situation in the system of white supremacy. They have made us them. And the thing that people would say would make them genius is the fact that they realize that they are stupid, and what they've done is they've convinced the rest of the world, the other, 95% of non-white people, to do things that they can't do for themselves. And what Thomas experienced on the job was just that situation where she, mistreated him, did not train him properly, and then now, all of these months later, he's finding out she really doesn't know how to do her job. And I've seen that on every job that I've worked, where white people will walk around and they'll either tout their degrees or even lie and say that they have degrees they don't have. And then when you get to the nitty gritty and you see them in a particular situation where they don't know what they're doing, then all the cards get laid on the table and they actually expose themselves as actually being not intelligent at all. And like I said, I just think that Thomas in that situation got a nice example of that, where to me it's just that they think ahead in the sense of being cunning, and because non-white people don't function in that manner, that's where they have us beat. But it has nothing to do with intelligence. As far as them being more intelligent than us, what they've done is made us stupid. This, like you've always said, and I agree with you, this system is designed to make non-white people stupid. And then what they do is they obfuscate the facts and then blame the victim for being stupid, when that's what they basically wanted to do from day one, and that's what they facilitated. Thank you.
Other folks have commentary related to workplace racism. You have questions about some of the different scenarios that we've heard thus far, or if you have your own situation that you would like to present, feel free.
Have you heard?
Yes, sir.
Good evening to all. Thomas in New York. I had just a comment for the gentleman, the young guy, because I'm glad he knew that. I didn't learn that until I was an adult, that George Washington Carver was castrated. I wish I knew that in school. Oh, man, I would have thrown that out there so fast. Very important to bring that stuff up that they don't want us to talk about. And I hope you definitely continue to do that at that meeting. I just wanted to say thank you for reading my story. I thought that was it was hilarious, and nothing else transpired behind that. Or she didn't come in, the next time and ask me anything. It just kind of fizzled out. What I've noticed, I've made an observation over two people at my workplace, a white male and a white female. And then I've noticed that they have both of them have come to my coworker and asked, is something wrong with Thomas? Does he not like me? And I've concluded that, I've noticed this from a trend from both of them, that they both seek, how can I word it? They like to validate black people with their whiteness, and I won't let them do it to me. And that's really what's irking them. This white female, she, I was working there a few months, and I say hi to her, and her whole department, hey guys, as I go past, and everything I thought was cool. And then she would come through the room that where we work out of, and she played me a little close. She started telling me, I started here working in the mill room, and now I'm a executive, and da-da-da-da. I'm like, oh, that's great. Cut it short, get back to work. Anytime she tries to have a conversation with me, I, answer her very, courteously, but I get back to work. I don't want to stand there and have a conversation with her, and that's what's irking her. And the gentleman I work with, he gives her that ability to validate him, because he's looking for white validation always, If they pat him on the head, he's happy. So, the fact that she stands there and talks to him, and, so I've also noticed from this white male, who also said, what's wrong with Thomas? He doesn't like me. He also likes to validate this black male too, and I won't let him do it to me. So he'll come in and he's an Italian, they kind of talk like they're, kind of tough, hey, what's up, well, how's it going? Hey, how's it going? And I walk right out the room. I don't want to stand in there and talk to you. And that's driving him crazy. So he's come around several times trying to spark a conversation. Generally, when I'm talking to the black male, and we might be speaking about something, be it work-related or not, he'll interject himself into the conversation and start talking to the black male maybe about baseball or football or whatever. And me, I just walk away, So, hey, Thomas, you don't like football? Yeah, I watch football. Oh, who's your team? Oh, my team sucks. I just walk away. I'm not looking to, I see this game. I don't want to, I don't know how to put it. I just see it and I feel it. And the fact that he came to me on Tuesday and told me that both of those people came to him and said something, it lets me know that what I'm doing is working, because I don't know, it's like a sixth sense. I felt it, and I said, oh, this person here, they're looking for some type of, they're looking for someone to pat on the head. I'm not going to be that person, and I wasn't that person, and they can't stand it. I could just feel it. So I look at that as a victory. Also, another thing that's happened, the white female, the one that's always saying racist things, she comes to me. She lives in Weehawken, New Jersey. Weehawken's a small city in Jersey. I mean, Usain Bolt could run through it in 20 seconds. It's real small. It's right on the waterfront, so the waterfront property is very exclusive. But, it's pretty much a city with rich white people and poor white people. Half of it's rich, half of it's poor. She's on the poor side. So she was telling me about this neighbor of hers who lived in Sandy Hill. Hurricane, that superstorm wasn't even Hurricane Sandy. I mean, this is white people's claim to fame. Oh, right. She tells me Sandy was like, hit us like Katrina. I said, oh, wait a minute. Now, I usually don't give her pushback, but, that was like, wait, y'all had to sit on your roofs for 5 days? Oh, no, not like that. But, I had about 3 feet of water. I said, wait a minute. Those people were underwater. Their house was underwater, and they got shot at when they tried to get to safety. Did anyone shoot at you? She said, I'm not mean it like that. So she kind of deaded that conversation because I wasn't going for that. Then she comes to me talking about her neighbor who his house was flooded and he didn't upkeep his house that good and it was attached to hers. And she's been going through all these laws and things trying to get his house torn down. And then finally it went through. So I just went to ask her, and I stopped. I said, "Hey, was this a black guy?" "Oh yeah, he was this black guy, and he had about 7 or 8 kids, and his wife, and they didn't keep the laws, and the door would be in the front yard." And that was all I had to hear, because I already knew that's why she did it, and I'm in my line thinking.
Fascinating. That is, in my opinion, great effort. If, like I say frequently on the program, if a white person, if they're making some sort of tacky commentary, like saying, we went through Katrina here with Superstorm Sandy, I think that was 2012, where they let a black mother let her children drown. It didn't help her. But anywho, when they start doing that sort of thing, or she's talking about Trump, a lot of times nothing need be said. But if you do want to comment, it is always advised to see if you can make your response, if you can put it in the form of a question, to just ask questions to see if what she said is valid. And it seems like just doing that, asking questions to see if her and once again, employing a metaphor to say, to express herself. I stated that consistently. Whites do that. I think that is a deliberate act of racism, white supremacy every time, and they do that sort of thing constantly. But just asking questions to get through. I think the first part of your commentary where you were talking about one of the ways that white people practice racism, I think more covertly, typically in workplace situations, when they want to talk to you and see that, oh yes, this nigger is elated that I'm talking to them, and they feel that I have given them some sort of validation. They feel better just having me as an individual white come in and act like I'm concerned, or want to hear what they have to say, or want to talk to that. Even that goes back to the sound clip we started with Mr. Fuller, where he was talking about how white people in general do not want to talk to black people unless they come and they want to talk about something. I think right in the order, he said weather, sports, and then it will go something tacky, trashy, that sort of thing, typically. That's what you're going to experience, and that our typical response, our typical victimized response, is to go along and entertain and giggle and that sort of thing. I think they just absolutely adore that form of racism, white supremacy, particularly when they can see that we are not suspicious of them. We do not think of them as racist, that they can just come and, whenever they want to mess around for 5 minutes and make fun, because a lot of times they get to slip in some little jokes and what have you. If it's not about you, some other black people, that sort of thing, they can have their little fun for 5 minutes, be entertained by the Negroes, and then they can go back to, whatever they generally are doing. And I think we've had a lot of callers down through the years when we talked about workplace racism, when they resist that. And I'm not trying to go hang out with you. No, I don't want to talk about what we did for the weekend. No, I don't want to hear about your troubles. No, I don't want to go out for lunch or, drinks later on, or any of that. It's just, whoa, what's up, man? You don't like me? Did I do something? That typical type of response, and just, hey, man, let's get to work. It's not about disliking anybody. Let's just get our job done, what we came to get done. And again, I say all the time, to make sure that you're not getting construed as being aloof, because that's the way that they like to take it in that sort of situation. Like, man, that Thomas, I trying to talk, the Giants started off great, and that Odell Beckham, and blah, 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 and, I don't know what's wrong with them. They try and make it that you're not a team player, so that can be an excuse to get rid of you. I'm not aloof. I think, as our caller shared in Dallas, speak to everybody. Speak when you get on the elevator. Speak when you come into the building. Make sure that you see, hey, what's good? And then if we are going to converse, make sure that we can redirect the conversation back to, we're talking about job-related things, not just foolishness. We're not gossiping, work-related things, and especially if you can work it so that you are learning things that are important to you so you can do your job better, and or you're just learning more information about the company, people that you work with, things that are going to happen in the future, just to make sure that, hey, what are you talking about? I talked to John, I talked to Susan, I talked to Helen. We talk all the time. They just gave me some great information about the new project coming down. The parking lot is going to be repaved. It's great. What do you do? Let's get back to work. Other folks have commentary that they want to share, questions from what we've heard from callers, or if you have your own thoughts, if anything is not, you don't understand, if you have questions, feel free.
One more thing, Gus. The white female that I felt like was trying to make a cowbell situation. And I had yesterday, gives me a call. Hey, just want to know how you were doing, and da-da-da-da-da. And I said, oh, my God, I can't believe this. Why would you call? Like, I didn't say that to her, but I'm just thinking to myself, oh, this is just tacky white female behavior. I got off that phone so fast. Oh, I'm busy right now. Gotta go. The boss has called me. We go on.
Job well done. Job well done. Other folks who dialed in, who, if you have your own situation that you want to share, or if you have questions, observations of your own, questions, observations about things that you've heard from callers already, feel free to dial in. Everyone who has a hand up should be with us.
Hello?
You're a little low, ma'am. If you could speak up.
Hello?
That is much better.
Oh, okay, thanks. Okay, first I want to ask, I also had no idea that George Washington Carver had been castrated as a child. But what I want to know is if anyone is aware, was his penis taken off or was his testicles? I don't mean to be gross, but I'm just trying to understand. Does anyone know?
I think it was the testicles. I could be in error, but I think it was the testicles. My understanding, he lived with a white family when he was a child, and there were white women present. And so to, not even a pun, but to nip that in the bud, they went ahead and mutilated him at a very, very young age. I think there were even rumors, because as our brilliant young scholar in the Bay Area said, his voice was was a little bit high. People were saying he was feminine, even some rumor innuendo that he might have been engaged in anti-sexual or homosexual behavior, but it was because he had been mutilated as a child. As I understand it, I could be in error, but I believe we have talked about this before. I can get you the exact program back in 2011.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to hear that.
Can I be heard?
I heard several folks. I don't know if were you responding to the inquiry about George Washington Carver?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Gus, it was his testicles, and I believe the family took him off because they had a daughter, and they didn't want him to rape the daughter of the family. And I don't believe he was into any anti-sexual behavior, but his voice, everyone perceived that he was because his voice was so high-pitched. So that's all I want to say.
Yep, that's about what I thought I had heard. And hope if that answered the question. Anything else they wanted to add? George Washington Carver.
Age 11.
Age 11, right on. We really should do a book study session on George Washington Carver, because he is a fascinating individual to study. I think a lot of us should know a lot more about him other than just, Peanuts, George Washington Carver, Peanuts. But yeah, we should make time for that down the road. Anything else, George Washington Carver?
I just wanted to make a correlation between what was done to him as far as his castration and a documentary I saw on black Germans where they did the same thing, like systemically. Once the black German males had reached usually like 14 or 15 years old, they would automatically take them from their parents' house in the early morning hours between 4 and 5 a.m., and with no anesthesia, castrate them as well. So I just found that to be an interesting correlation. Thank you.
If you want to hear more about George Washington Carver, Dr. Yomo Mutegi, this was September 26, 2011. This was his second visit to the Context of White Supremacy, and we spent a considerable portion of that dialogue giving more information about George Washington Carver, the information I said earlier about the boll weevil. Dr. Mutegi said that he should have won a Nobel Prize because this was like majorly important, what he did in decreasing the damage that boll weevils were doing to crops in the early 20th century. We talked about his relationship with Henry Ford. Ford wanted him to come and work. I think he had the same theory that he was involved in even the name, it being called a plant. There's someone who is widely regarded as just being astronomically brilliant with crops and agriculture, and the castration that took place as well. But Dr. Yoma Mutegi, lots of great details about George Washington Carver, September 26, 2011. The female caller, I thought, was that your only inquiry, or did you have another question that you were going to ask as well?
Yeah, thank you, everyone that responded. And then the second thing I wanted to say was it's kind of similar to what Thomas in New York was explaining. At my workplace, I just limit my speech to whites to just good morning and goodbye, and if they have any work-related or business-related questions, I answer them. Now, whenever I'm speaking to a black person that is codified, because I do have a black coworker who's very codified, and so we talk about different things. Whenever a white person comes around, I try not to look anxious or anything, but my goal is to leave immediately. And so I'll tell the person, okay, Tiffany, I'll just talk to you, later, and I walk on. And I think the whites have caught on to that now. And so I remember I'll just say her, a fictitious name, Tiffany. I remember Tiffany telling me, oh, well, they now notice that when you just all of a sudden abruptly stop the conversation when they come by, because normally when they come by, it's not work related. They're just trying to get in our small circle to talk. But she says that sometimes they'll, motion their hands like, wow, what did I do? And we just laugh about that. So that's how I cope at work in dealing with white people, especially with, when it's not anything work related. And so, like I said, they've noticed that I'm very codified in that manner. So that, I don't know if that may work for someone, but it does work for me. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Always important to keep that, in the forefront of your mind, that whites, they are extremely alert and mindful about their niggers and changes in our behavior. They take note of that immediately, and generally that sort of thing is networked conferences, and they go off and, have dialogue with other race soldiers like, oh man, that Thomas, they are over there talking in the corner, and every time I come around, stop talking. I'm trying to hear what they're talking about. They do this all the time. Like, man, who's this nigger think? That sort of thing happens on a regular basis, wherever you happen to be at on the plantation. As I'm rolling, people are emailing, so I'm making sure I don't get caught like I did last week with people emailing stuff, and we get to the end and then I haven't shared, so I'm going to try to weave these in as we go. So next email, someone wrote in, a white female sent this email to the entire workplace, and it was not her place to send the email. She is not the director, nor is she the supervisor of the contractors. This is a workplace where there are about 190 whites with only 5 black people in total. The black employees are all females, no black males. There are no black employees in this white female's department, so check out her email. Scrolling forward. So this is the email. Just a friendly notice that we will be having some unfamiliar faces on the 4th floor tomorrow due to some construction work in the physics department office area. I'm not sure how long they will be with us, but just in case anyone is curious about the new faces, thanks. Security threat, they might have them castrated just to, make sure that all the white females are safe in the workplace. One down. We have a few more to go, but I'll save those for later. Other folks have commentary that they would like to share. If we haven't heard from you, definitely speak up. If you have questions about what has been shared thus far, that's fine. If you have your own situation, feel free as well.
Yes, sir. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Greetings to the callers, Gus. You were just speaking about the fact that, about being aloof and how they'll start, kind of like ostracizing you and saying, he's antisocial and so forth. But I just want the caller, your opinion on how do you deal with the situation where it's more of a like I had an actual non-white person, that's been there for years, and he says, all you have to do is just, go, sit with them and get to know them and basically let them in your business. But that's just not my style. But it's when it's a fraternal type of environment. How do you get past that? Because that can really hinder you as far as if you need help with information or job training or even moving up in the company. I mean, that can kind of hinder you. So, and the way you explained it kind of was cut and dry, but it's not always that way. How do you deal with it when it's like a fraternal type situation and you have to get in and fit in, and that's just not me, but how do you overcome that situation?
Just so that I understand correctly, when you say fraternal type situation, does that mean you can just correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding, but is this the sort of environment where it's a lot of talking to people on a first name basis and hanging out after work or away from the office, whether we're going to lunch or dinner or parties, that sort of thing, hanging out during lunch, we all eat together? Is that the type of environment that you're talking about?
No, sir, not at all.
Okay.
I mean, as far as the lunch situation, yes, but it's like, you have to get in where you fit in, and, I'm one of two black people on the job, and it's like, I'm already under the microscope, but it's just, I mean, not necessarily like the police kind of like the blue line or whatever they call it. That fraternal, like, you got to stand with us. We stand as a brotherhood type situation, but I don't stand with them like that. I just want to come do my job, and if I need some assistance in doing that, I, would hope that you would help me along. But if you're not in, so to speak, I mean, you may not get that assistance, and I'm just wondering how to deal with that type of situation.
Just a little bit more help would, at least for me, would be appreciated in terms of when you say get in where you fit in, or it's like a police blue line type of a thing. Like, if you don't have to divulge anything that's going to, identify where you work with or where you work or who you work with, but just in terms of the types of things that you're talking about that are expected of you when you say get in where you fit in, a brotherhood, types of things that you're expected to do to show that you're with us.
Basically, let them in my business. I work in a auto shop. It's like a diesel mechanic shop, and there's not many of us that does that in my area. And I'm pretty much the only one out there doing it. And a lot of these guys have been there for years, and they have developed a camaraderie. And in order for you to get in that circle, so to speak, you have to comply, and I can't comply. And I'm just wondering,
what are some of the things that, is it just you're not willing to comply with regards to sharing details about yourself, like just talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, my personal life, or my political views, or whatever it could be. But I mean, I'm that person that, hey, I'm always cordial. Hey, good morning. How you doing? But, as far as sitting down in the break room, eating lunch with them, and no, I don't do that. I go to my car, I sit in my car and eat, and, I kind of stay out the way. And it seems like I'm standoffish to them because of that, because I don't sit down in the break room with them on lunch, and like I don't want to be a part of the team, so to speak. You kind of understand what I'm saying?
I have a better grasp now. Thank you for being patient with me and taking time to explain. I have a better grasp now. Thank you, sir. My number one, I can plug our book club, because this is going to come up, and I mean like explicitly, in the book we are starting tomorrow, The Spook Who Sat by the Door. Sam Greenlee, but he addresses this explicitly, and it's going to come up tomorrow, I believe, in the first audio segment, so you can tune in and hear how he deals with this, even though this is fiction, but I think a lot of this would apply. I think a lot of this would even, you could pull it right into workplace racism, and it would be great. And those and I think our black female caller in Michigan, she talked about this, where she felt that, talked about with Thomas before, about where you deny whites that validation, you're not willing to be an open book, as they say, and just chat it up and go hang out with them and go sit in the break room and talk about, your whole life story, that type, where you're not willing to do that. And she said that she felt that may have been a contributing factor to her being let go in a former place of employment. And we were talking, this was maybe a year or so ago, we were talking about how would you codify to minimize if you recognize that you're in one of those workplace situations, or if people are saying, hey, you're not a team player, you're not a part of our fraternity, it seems like you don't like us, you don't want to be around us, that sort of thing. Ways to mitigate that. I think with her, their situation, they would go out to like lunch or go out for drinks or whatever, that sort of thing. I think we had maybe codified, maybe you go out once a month. Maybe if they eat in-house, they don't go out to lunch per se, they just eat, if there's a cafeteria there or wherever there's a break room and people all get together, you eat there once a month. That way they can't say that you never come, but you don't make this a daily thing. And if anyone asks, you can just, hey, I got a lot of work to do. I'm just real comfortable just working at my desk. I'm normally not even a lunch person at all. If I do eat something, I just try to stay on task and make sure I'm getting stuff done. I really, I'm concerned about making sure that I'm not getting behind, that sort of thing. Although if you're working on cars, that's probably not going to be feasible to say that you eat at your desk or what have you. But I think you said you eat in your car. I would say maybe go once. You could do once a week and go eat with them and just chalk that up. This is the sort of thing, this is part of the job. That's the way that I would look at it. This is a part of the job. I go eat with them once out of the 5 days a week, or how many ever days per week that you work. The one time that you do go, I would even think in advance. These are things that I'm not willing to talk about. I'm not willing to talk about, if you have children, or if I don't know, I'm not willing to talk about these things. I can ask questions and or talk about these things. And I would even make a list, maybe take 10 minutes about things that you would be willing to talk about. Workplace related things. I would even try and pile my list up with lots of things dealing with the job. Like, we can sit around and talk about this. Man, do you remember that car that we had to work on back then? Woo, that was a toughie. What do you think about this new, piece of technology? What do you think about that, Bob? Man, that's going to be crazy. What do you think our sales are going to look like? I would have a big list of subjects that are related to the job, where we can sit around and act like we are best friends in the whole wide world. And we can sit around and laugh and joke and ha-ha, he-he, all that. And I'm not having to talk about me personally. If you want to think of some things that you would be willing to talk about, or where your personal boundary is, if you're willing, I don't know if you grew up in that area, if they know that sort of information, whatever you're willing to share, if there's some spots in your geographic location that are well known, restaurants that people like. I know that's something people always enjoy talking about, good places to go out and eat. What do you think about this spot? Have you been over there? Oh, have you tried that? Man, that was awesome. I went over there, blah, blah, blah. Just silly things. And again, this is just, I would chalk all of this up. This is a part of my duty for being on this job. I have to go and talk to the race soldiers 1 day a week. I go in to do lunch with them, and then I already have my list of topics that I'm going to, I'm serious. I'm being totally serious. That's the way
deflection. Okay.
And I would try to ask a lot of questions. That way they are hearing you talk. You are participating, but you're not revealing as much. I don't know if these folks, if they talk about things that are happening in the news, but that's another one where you could ask questions. Oh, did you see, wherever you are in the world, oh, did you see, such and such? They're having a problem with the bridge down there. Oh, did you see the big scandal that happened at the school? Like, oh my God, they got, a child molester at the school. Did you see that? That's crazy. Like, oh my God. And just see, what they're talking about on that. That way you get to ask questions. You get to hear their view. Particularly if they ask something about the presidential race, oh, I don't really know. I saw, Donald Trump said such and such, but, I haven't really been keeping, too many tabs on it. I'm just not too sure. I'm going to still have to think. I'm not really certain about who I'm going to vote for. What do you think? What do you think about what he said? I would just get really, really good at being able to ask questions, whatever response you want to give. make it concise and already, like I said, have in line what your personal boundary is in terms of what you're willing to divulge, what you're not willing to divulge. That's kind of the way that I would go about approaching it. And again, making sure I speak, I chat, all that, speak with everybody, call them on a first name basis, make sure that they hear my voice on a regular basis. But just, I'm not into, going over my whole family history and my fears and desires, dreams. I'm not gonna do all that. If that makes sense, folks can let me know if it doesn't make sense.
Sir.
Okay. Other folks have suggestions?
Thank you very much.
For sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Oh, I was going to say, some of the difficult things that you said you might need help with, those are the questions I would ask them about, things that you might have encountered that you think they might not help you with. In those moments, those are the things to bring up. So that way, if you encounter those difficulties down the road, you already got the information that you need to facilitate some sort of resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross.
I was going to say, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go. I go after you.
Yeah, I was going to say, white supremacists, thank you. White supremacists practice deception. Sometimes it's codified to practice deception for us. So let's make up some stuff. Hey, you want to give them a story. Hey, you want to talk to the black guy? Give them a story. Let them hear it. Hey, they practice deception all day just to come in to ask you, hey, what's going on? That's practicing deception. They don't care. So do the same thing. Make up something, Make your life story as great as you want it to be. Mom.
Yeah, that's why I love listening to you, man. I'm sorry. I was gonna say. I'm sorry, man. I was gonna say. Unfortunately, I've concluded that white people are not our friends. I say unfortunately, but they are not our friends. And again, unfortunately, we can't do what they do. And so, with me, I would have to say, you have to let your work speak for you, because, even if you do divulge all the information that they want, if something shall go down, you will be the first one they throw off the ship. And, that's all I can say. So if you do have inspirations to moving up, you just have to let your work show for you. And I was going to say, because they do respect money. That's what they do respect. They don't respect the fact that you have, wife or kids or whatever. They respect money. And if you're making the money, they respect that.
Just the one quick comment that I was going to give it on the deception thing, and folks have mentioned that before as a strategy as well, to just make up some details that you can give them or what have you. I just say this because I know I am not the most intelligent person on the planet. My puny Negro brain, I could easily see, particularly if you catch me on a day where I didn't maybe get as much rest as I like, or I'm, not feeling very well, and I have made up, some narrative about whatever, and then they ask and say, "Oh man, remember that time when you were on the high school football team?" Like, what are you talking about? Oh, yes. I have to keep track. Just my code, I try to be as low maintenance as possible, so I don't have to remember and keep up with any of the deceptions. So I would try to make them manageable things so that you don't, end up confusing yourself. I know that's just a concern I have, being, a retarded victim of white supremacy.
Yeah, I didn't mean that kind of greatness. I mean, I'm black. I had a dad, bro, man. I grew up in the hood. People getting shot every day. Tell them what they want to hear. Give them the story of their life. You know what I'm saying? That's what they buy Jay-Z albums for. That's what they do for. To hear that. Give it to them. They'll leave you alone. Trust me. You could be right, though, Gus. I could be wrong.
Other folks have other suggestions, recommendations, or if you have your own personal incident of racism, white supremacy on the job that you would like to share, feel free. The number to dial again is 641-715-3640, and the code is 564-943#. Press *6 if you would like to participate, please do not wait till the last minute. That is high on my list of bothersome things. Not as high as racist man, racist woman, racist child, but it is up there. People waiting until the last 2 minutes of the broadcast to call in and decide they have something that they want to share. Getting back to the emails, person wrote in. This is difficulties with other victims of racism on the job, which is a consistent problem that many of us deal with. So, a person wrote in, I have a friend who is a black male teacher, and he works with a confused black male teaching assistant. His teaching assistant is not codified at all. He hangs out with white coworkers after work hours, and he is known for hitting on women in the school. I think that's a cowbell, but he didn't specify. Lately, his antics have been affecting my friend. He takes his lunch break and sometimes doesn't come back to work, expecting my friend to cover for him. The teaching assistant is also working on his master's degree. On many occasions, the assistant is attempting to do his job while he is at his laptop, while he has his laptop out completing his homework assignments. My friend has spoken to him privately about his lack of professionalism, but his behavior remains the same. This is getting out of hand, and my friend is thinking about asking the principal to change his teaching assistant. I told him not to react emotionally to the things the teaching assistant does. Instead, he should document everything that is affecting his job performance or putting him in a bad position. I also told him not to go to the principal without having documentation, and that it would be better to email the principal or write a letter. This way he has a paper trail, so if anything were to happen, he would have some evidence that he tried to rectify this issue. Do you think this is constructive suggestions? Do you or listeners have any suggestions? I thought his recommendation about creating a paper trail, as they call it, I thought that was great. I did also share with this person that I suspect this could be one of the ways that white supremacy racism impacts our behavior as victims. I suspect if this black male teaching assistant, if he had a white teacher that he was working for, I doubt that he would be doing some of these things. I could be in error. Carter G. Woodson talked about that. We brought that up before. Can't say for sure, but that would be my speculation. Anyway, talking to the person, I know I've heard Mr. Fuller recommend that if you are in a workplace situation and you're having a problem with another non-white coworker, to try to speak with them privately first and let them know, what the issue is and that you would like to resolve it just between you two or you three or how many other people it is, and that if you all cannot resolve this problem, that you are going to go to the whites and let them know about it, and they can handle it. I would do the same thing with this person, and I think it's great in terms of documenting incorrect things that are being done if the person is taking lunch and not coming back, or taking longer than they're supposed to, or if they've got their laptop out when they're supposed to be teaching, or whatever the infractions are. Document them, date, time, what's happening, and I've talked to this person. I talked to this person on such and such a date to address this issue, and it's continuing. I talked to them again, blah blah blah, and then I definitely, with the email, that way you have a record of written record of bringing this up with the white people who can solve this problem. We certainly need black teachers, but we need black teachers that value grooming, nourishing the next generation of black scholars, not if you're not going to take it seriously under these conditions of white terrorism. Folks have suggestions that you would give for this situation? Perhaps not. We'll pick up. If folks have any suggestions about this as we roll, feel free to just reference back to it if you have anything you would like to share on that. Other folks who dialed in, if we have not heard from you in particular, please feel free. Go ahead and share.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Greetings, Gus. Greetings to the callers and the listeners on the line. This is Rob calling from Milwaukee. I just left the classroom and had a white professor and took just a couple of notes. I thought a few things stood out that he said. First thing was he said that freedom is knowing that you're not alone, and then maybe we're all not free. I thought that was very interesting, being spoken by a white man. And in class, it was a non-white, quote-unquote Latino male that was looking at his phone or checking a text message or something like that. And the white man said to him, let's put the phone away. If everybody see it, then everybody else gonna start wanting to do that. And I know it's a sex message. I just know it is. And that was the end of my observation. Sorry for calling in so late, but I did just get out of the classroom. I didn't have a chance to really hear any other commentary, but thanks for taking the call.
Appreciate it. No apologies. Class is important. Thank you for dialing in to share. Other folks, why were you so sure it was something sex-related, the text message?
That's what the white male teacher said to the Latino male, and I thought that was very interesting. And I just wonder, would he have said that if it had been a white male or really a white female? I wonder if he would have said that. And and looking at it in the context of white supremacy, how non-white males get over-sexualized, I thought that it was a very interesting perspective coming from a white male who is a sociology professor.
Thank you for the correction. I got it. I would agree that does seem to be a typical pattern in the system of white supremacy where non-white people get hyper-sexualized. Carter G. Woodson, consistent theme in the program this evening. Other folks that, particularly if we have not heard from you, if you have either your own situation you want to address or if you have commentary on any of the different vignette situations that have been brought up thus far, feel free.
May I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Greetings, Gus. Greetings to all the callers and listeners. Sam from South Florida. Y'all doing? I want to share two things. One, I recently got another job detailing. This time at a higher end dealership. And I noticed how to put this. From learning from this show, I can't quite put it in words, but I see, I feel what I thought before was an air of confidence, just to move ahead in life, or move up in your job status, from entry level to, on and so forth. But now it seems like just complete racism, just complete, like I'm better than anything darker than me, or anything dark, I'm better than that. Like, instance, I was detailing the car, pressure washing. We have an inside building with 3 bays where we pull the cars in and we wash them all, but we put other little things on them, little chemicals and other things. So I'm in there and I got a pressure washer. I'm washing it, and mind you, like I said, I just started, but just the guys that are with me, that did detailers, and then on the inside of the you have another building. There's a mechanics, and then you have a separate building where all the dealership is, where the salesmen and all that. And the salesmen, they'll come back, they'll bring a car back, and they'll just walk through while you're washing the car. And at first, like my first couple of days, I chalked it up as, well, I don't know, usually the guys may stop in mid-work, or just maybe the salesmen are new, or you know what I mean? It might be a new path that they're taking. But then as the days went by, I just started to see that, it was just like a era of, I'm sorry, all the details are black. All the details are black. All the mechanics are white, except for one. And all the salesmen are I don't know. They're white or non-white, but not black. Not black as in like I consider myself black, not an African American, but just I'm from here. My people have been here, trace back, whatever. But I consider myself black. Like me, no guys like that. Indians, people that consider themselves East Indian or East Asian, Middle Eastern, or Northern Africa, or or even Latin people. People that consider themselves Spanish or Latin. Nobody black. But like I said, a couple of days went by, they walked through. These guys just, as soon as they walk in, they fire up a cigarette, walk straight through. If they got a buddy with them, they talk to them, but they walk straight through where we're washing cars, like exactly where we're washing cars. And so, like, maybe 3 days ago, I just, I didn't want to lose my job or anything. I stay to myself. I talk, I joke, but I kind of stay to myself and my kind. But I just kept washing the car just to see what the guy would do. And he stopped, of course, because he didn't want to get wet, and he kind of, like, went around. So I just kept washing the car, but I said I was going to pay attention to him when he came back in to see, not pay attention to him not to get him wet, or pay attention to how did he feel about what transpired, what happened. So he walked back in. He didn't look at me, but the way he walked by the car, he walked pretty close, like the where I was, and I stopped watching at that time. He walked pretty close, and it's just like, maybe I'm exaggerating or I'm imagining, but he seemed to have his chest out more, just not stalking, but I don't know. He just like had an air of arrogance. I guess is what I could say, and it just I know how to handle it. I know how to deal with it, but I just found it. I found it interesting that it was no threat he didn't feel physically threatened. He didn't feel any of those things. And the other thing I wanted to share was I have a friend. He's a black male, and we were having a discussion. Well, a brief discussion, and he said something about a white girl or somebody white, and then he went on to say that that's all he only dates white girls or Spanish women. And, he was talking about it, so I asked him, I said, well, why? And he gave me all kind of other, like, I don't know, man, it's just something about him, and it just, I don't know. And then I was like, well, do you believe, you came from a black woman, do you believe that, life comes from black, I went asking him those kind of, like a couple of those questions. Does he believe that life comes from black people, does he care about, things happening with slavery, like how does he take it? Has he ever asked her about it? I asked any of the girls about it. And he kind of deflected the questions, and he just went on just about, I don't know, he like them and this and that. And not so much that he can't stand our queen sisters, but that he doesn't, for whatever reason, but he just does not. His preference is white or non-white, but I guess not black. And I mute my line. Thank you.
Interesting. Thank you for dialing in to share. I remember you had dialed in before when you were working on vehicles down in Florida and talking about how the whites would come and get real close in your space. Kind of the same thing we've been talking about today. Would come and get real close in your space and tell their corny jokes and what have you, and you're just expected to take it. And when you didn't want them in your personal space, how that became a problem, much like what Thomas was talking about, what we've been talking about today. But it sounded, just the way you described your new plantation situation, it sounded exactly like a plantation with the black people doing the work on the vehicles, and then all the people that are the upper management or what have you are not black. I know you said they were white and or non-black, non-white people that are, upper management where you work at. That sounds very plantational. That is the system of racism, white supremacy, all areas of people activity. Was this on the job, this conversation with the non-white coworker about his what they call dating preferences?
Yes, Gus. Yes, it was on the job, and I just said he's my manager. Like matter of fact, he's not my manager. He's somebody that I knew growing up. He's like a supervisor. He has several stores that he supervises, like in the teens. So maybe in the 20s, I don't know. But most of the time he's at our store. Like I said, I grew up under him. He's some years older than me, and I watched him, growing up, move the wind stuff. But I always knew him. But I never knew that about him because he has children, and his first child, I know her mother. Matter of fact, her mother and my sister used to be consider themselves best friends, and nice woman, very very nice woman. But I know her, and she's black. And I when he was saying that, I don't know, I was taken, not to use a metaphor, but I was taken aback. I was kind of like, it shocked me to hear that coming from him. So, yeah, I didn't mean to rant, but yeah, it was on the job.
Not a rant. Appreciate the clarification. That is that product of the system of white supremacy, that sort of thinking. I think Mr. Fuller would say that we become monsters and monstrosities under this system with that sort of thinking. I would say just my recommendation. Certainly, we all have VGQ. You come to your own conclusions, and I know many folks have said Gus has no idea what he's talking about. Come to your own conclusion, but I wouldn't even encourage having that sort of conversation with another non-white person, even if you know them well on the job, just because whites, they wield so much power over us that it's very easy, particularly if this person is already, evidencing this type of anti-blackness, that it's very easy to manipulate us. And, I'm just making up a name, to go and talk to a white person, one of the white people that is not a detailer, that, is one of the executives there, and be like, man, Bob was out there talking crazy about slavery and hating white people. And I mean, it was just, I can't even believe that he brought that up. And we have had, non-white people victims call in before where that sort of thing has happened, where a non-white person, they were talking about racism, and the victim thought that the person they were talking to thought that they could trust that individual, and that person went and snitched and told about their views on racism to whites, and they ended up losing their job. So that's my view. I know some people don't, that's not their view. They are willing to take that, risk, I would call it, but that's not their view. That's fine. But I did at least want to get that out there, just because I've seen where that has gone bad for victims of racism before, unfortunately.
I definitely agree, guys. Definitely.
And I just say that I remember the call from Florida as well. Hopefully the sun's not beating down on them. And
yeah, right.
The key thing I would say is that if someone was to tell me that in a general conversation, if I knew them or not, they only date white women and non-black women, preferably that look close to white women. They have that Little Wayne mentality. I would say I wouldn't say anything to them anymore about that, because there's nothing you're going to say that's going to change that. They're getting high levels of white validation, and they're not going to learn until they learn on their own, or they're staring up at a tree in a rope. That's the only way. It's nothing you're going to say to help. That's how we dead that conversation altogether.
Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate it.
Wow. Other folks, if you all have commentary, either your own situation you would like to address, or if you have suggestions, strategies about some of the situations that have been presented already, if you have questions, that's fine too. The number again is 641-715-3640. The code is 564-943#. Press *6 if you would like to participate. Please do not wait till the last minute. If you know you have something you would like to share, dial in, get your hand up. Anybody that we missed? Any callers that have not been able to share at all?
Can I be heard?
Can I be heard? Oh, go ahead. I'll go after you. Thanks. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Gus for this platform to talk on. Definitely been important to me within the last year. I am from the Midwest. I'm currently on a plantation now, so that's why I called in earlier. It's tough for me to get to you guys, but I've been listening, and this is a feed off of what the caller from Florida, I guess, or what you guys are talking about. Here in the Midwest, I've known I've been with the company I've been with for the last, I think, 11, going on 12 years. And I've run into this problem, which has kept me, that I feel, at an entry level for 10, 12 years. Not my education, not my attitude. And I deal with HNIC. I deal with it all the time. It's unfortunate, though, but that runs rampant. I know probably everywhere, but definitely in the Midwest, people want to capitulate to white people. For me, I know we are all talking about white people to this point, and I hate to digress and start talking about black people, what they do to each other. I work with a reverse to the guy that said he talked to a manager. His manager, he knew the guy, and they were reversed. He was old. The worker was older than the manager. Well, this is reversed. I had a guy that's a couple years older than me. Kind of grew up together. We know each other. Me and his younger brother were good. I was a little older than his younger brother. He's a little older than me, 3-4 years of separation. And right now, when I first got at this company, which is in 2005, he had been here maybe a year or two. We knew each other, and we worked on this shift, which is second. And I knew him. This is when I was a little. I still was codified, but I was a little more confused than I am now. The guy, right now, I don't work with him currently. I think he's still with the company. Back in, I think, 2007, 2008, when we worked together, we ate together. We both had aspirations. I mean, we both grew up with our parents, well off. I mean, lower middle class, but there was no, there was not a government cheese. There was no government help. It was all, his dad took care of him. My mother was single mother. She took care of me and my sister. So we had things in common. We knew each other. We had aspirations. He served, I think, in the Navy. I did not. But, this guy was a little bit more, I want to say, urban. I'm not even urban, just, just because we're on a little bit more hood. Meaning like he had the do-rags, let him loose, not curled up. I currently have a do-rag on now. It's bundled up. I don't, I try to stay codified with, I work in a factory, so, but, tattoos, gold front, gold tooth, got, cars with 20s on them, 22s, always trying to step up an inch each year with his car, But we had a white woman that was our supervisor on second shift. He had been there 2-3 years prior to me, so I knew my job. He had knew his job well. He became the lead in our area, and it's I'm all for it. And even right now, after I get done, I'm still I will not say anything negative about him. Meaning like when it comes down to what he had to do what you got to do. But it's unfortunate that you take on the HNIC role and sit down with him, talk to him. We talk. He tell me his aspirations. I tell him mine every 30 minutes each day, second shift. Just me and him, and I guess the white woman wanted to give him a chance. And I'm all for it. I'm clapping. So I'm like, that's good. I'm not expecting anything. But that's like Mr. Fuller said, I would never expect, because Barack Obama got into office, that black people were going to, miraculously, everybody was going to get a check. And, reparations going to happen. You know, that's what white people believed, you know, but you had to be a fool to even think about that or think like that. So when he got on, I was generally happy. He had a son. He had medical problems with his son. Black guy, had a black wife. Kids are black. I'm happy. You know, I'm still to this day, I'm like, you know, it's good. But I guess you got to step on people, feel like you need to step on people in order to move ahead. When he became a team lead, and she gave him a chance, became a supervisor. So he left my area to supervise another area. He would come back to me telling me stories about these other white supervisors getting in trouble. He was on a lower shift because he was a new supervisor, and these white people here at this company, you're a supervisor, you can make easily 6 figures with bonus. You can make that. And, you know, that was the aspiration between me and him. We wanted to, you know, make that, you know, and get our families out of the areas we're in, or just make us, you know, build on that. And he got on. I'm happy. He would come by for a year or two, tell me what's going on. Man, that's messed up. You know, how you going to do it? We would think about codified things, you know, before I even attempted or to even listen to the cows. We were already thinking about what you had to do. You know, I remember a situation where the supervisor was on first shift, told him, hey, I need these things done. I need so-and-so move to this area, check on these areas. I would just say the guy I'm talking about would say, hey, I can't do that because I already checked in that area. These things will be ready. The machine's down. The white guy walked up to him, oh, you're just a baby. You're just a baby, and walked away. You know, he was heated. Come back to me mad. I told him to calm down. It's all good. You know, just make sure you remember that, you know. And he moved on from there. You know, I still have my job to do, and I'm trying to ascend through this garbage too. So he's on for a couple years. He's learned their doctrine. You know, he's understanding what hat to wear. So now he's over my area. Now, a year, him being a supervisor, he's over my area. And, you know, I hated to, you know, I that's what's messed up. What racism, white supremacy does as a black person, you hate to, you know, point. The guy was in my area. He started to move in my area, become my supervisor. He knew I was proficient at my job. I knew all areas of this particular line. I could work any area I want. Okay, you know that I knew every area without any failure. And you know there was another lead to be. He needed a lead, and he did everything he could not to give me that lead. And I'm asking him, you know, I'm kind of like, what's up? You know, like in my mind, like it's me. You already know that. So I had to, you know, kind of pull him to the side. Oh, let me take everybody's opinion and kind of let me make up these BS, you know, applications for a lead within the fact. I'm like, you know, in my mind, like he's doing everything he can not to fight the hand that fed him, you know, and it's just not, you know, use it like that, but that's what it was. And that's the doctrine that's spread at this company. If you are prominent in most companies, if you're prominent in a black role, you know, prominent black for leadership, you cannot, Obama was going through, you can't bite the hand that fed you. You cannot, you know, just start putting a bunch of black people on, because then if you do, something goes wrong, they're going to be like, see, look at you, put all these black people on, I told you can't do that, you know. So he was definitely scared of that, which is unfortunate, because these types of things change your life. I'm still at a certain pace where I could be at another pay scale, but because of certain decisions that other people make over me, that I'm suppressed, you know. So, you know, I just to that, you know, the other caller earlier, it's just it's a bad situation when you conversate with somebody at work. You think you guys are another black male. You try to stay together, and one of you get on, and things happen. I think, Gus, were you going to ask me a question, or?
No, I thank you for sharing. Even though I'm sorry that had to be the situation that you're experiencing. I just wanted to point out, and just going back to the audio clip that we had with Neely Fuller Jr. at the very beginning, and we're closing in on 8 years, white people permitting 8 years of doing the context of white supremacy. I understand a little bit more each day, each year when Mr. Fuller says, if you do not understand racism, white supremacy, what it is, how it works, then everything else will only confuse you. When the audio clip that I played today with him talking about workplace racism, where he talked about, if you are a black person on a job, you are not in charge. It's very, very, even if you're not, on a job, you still are not in charge. But certainly, if you're in a workplace situation, you are not in charge, regardless of what your title is, regardless of how big your office is. You are not the most powerful person there, and that includes President Obama, as you stated. I think it's very important for us to keep that in mind. And even as I stated with the callers who have shared that they are afraid of even calling in to discuss their issues with workplace racism because some of the whites that they work with might hear them and they might cause problems for them. As I stated earlier this broadcast, that is totally logical and legit. So I'm sure this black male that that you went to school with and all that, directly, indirectly, it seems like he understands, hey, if I put a whole lot of black people, even if, this is my guy, we grew up together and all that, and I've known him for years and years and years, if I put him on, I might get in trouble with these whites. You said you all have aspirations to try to do better for yourself, do better for your family. That's totally logical, totally legit. He might be thinking, hey, if I do that, if I give the lead position to my friend, that might, jeopardize me. They might tell me, hey, you're not doing a good job. We're going to replace you and get a different supervisor or whatever his official title is. That's the system of white supremacy. In my view, I think it is best in terms of dealing with that. I know it's frustrating, but in my view, it's logical. The people to be upset with or frustrated with are whites. They are the ones who are making this situation where he is fearful or whatever is motivating him to not allow you to move up and whatever. And I would even say logically, it's not him that is the one that is making the decision for you to not move up, even though he might appear to be the one that's out on the floor and saying, well, I'm not going to give you the lead and whatever he said when you address this issue with him. Directly, indirectly, it is white people. They are in charge. I think you said it was a white woman who allowed him to have that job. I'm sure another white person can make a decision about whether he's going to keep that job, whether you'll keep your job, whether you'll move up. That is the system of white supremacy. And I know people, disagree. That's fine. But it's my view. I think it's very important to just kind of keep that perspective because it's true. I'm not saying this, out of some love of black people and, let's never criticize. It's not that. It's just either it's true or it's not. White people are in charge. They make these decisions directly, indirectly, and even if it is through fear and intimidation of another black person, that is still the white person is in charge of how these things are going to work out. Either I'm talking crazy or that is counter-racist logic.
Not at all. You're not talking crazy. It's just unfortunate because once he got put on, the gold tooth got put out, the veneer got put in, the car got traded in, the Caprices got traded in for the BMW. It was just unfortunate that out of everybody in our group, and I know who's taking the baton. Who steps up for leadership roles. That's at the end of the day, that's what I seek is some leadership experience in a role. And under the circumstances, it was just unfortunate that he had to look at outside other areas in order to get somebody to come in to lead because he just wanted to do everything he could not to hand that off to me. And, I, like you said, I totally understand it. It was just, it's very frustrating. It's just very frustrating. And like I said, I've really been, ever since the book club and the last Blood Brothers, I've really been looking and reading over the last several weeks about the spat that Martin Luther King and Malcolm had and how it was displayed publicly. It was unfortunate. And the one thing I could have done, one thing I did do, actually, I walked up to the HR in my job, and it was a black woman. And I said to her, off the record, I need this off the record. She closed the book, and we just start talking. And I broke it down to her, like, this is what I'm facing. I just don't understand. She's like, I don't understand either. Let me talk to him. When she talked to him, a week later, he comes up to me and goes, do you want to be the lead? Kind of like you didn't want to do it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, like, hey, I understand, but I do understand what we all face. Him, me. It's just unfortunate that it took him over that way to where he could not. It was in his gut that he did not want to help. You know, it's a doctrine that goes around here that you do not help another black. A white man can help any demographic, anyone. A white woman can help anyone. A black female can help anyone, but a black male cannot help a black male. It's just taboo. And, you know, it's just unfortunate. So I appreciate everybody. I appreciate your commentary, too, Gus. I'll mute my line. Thank you, everybody.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I do think black people in general are not allowed, discouraged, and I would even add punished for attempting to help other black people. Might even submit Dr. Frances Cress Welsing as Exhibit A for a black female also being punished for trying to help other black people. Shirley Sherrod as well, with her position formerly in the Obama administration, as they called it. She also was punished for trying to help other black people, black farmers specifically. That standard operating procedure worldwide. And I would even add really quick also, even if it is not indirectly stated from whites, even if it's just anti-blackness and I don't want, to risk this black person, my friend, person I've grown up with, advancing ahead of me, doing better than me, getting that six-figure salary before me, or getting a better car than me quicker, that still is the mentality of a victim of white supremacy. And like I said, I know many people, that's not the position that they take, and they, want to fault find and yell at that person and name call them and all of that. I have not seen where that solves any problems. Again, everything really about workplace racism. This broadcast is about practical ways of thinking, acting, speaking to solve problems without making new problems. I just haven't seen where taking that approach to blaming the black person. I've stated for years, it just comes down. I'm not saying you, I'm just talking in general. When people go that direction, what should be done? Should we call him names? Should we key his car? Should we throw eggs at him? Should we toilet paper his house? Should we put him in the headlock? What should be done? I have not heard any solutions to solve this problem, and I've concluded you're not going to solve this problem until we replace white supremacy with justice. It's very easy. Whites have a myriad of different techniques that they can use to manipulate black people into behaving against our own self-interest, personally and or other black people in job situations or anywhere else. That is the power dynamic of white power. We had other people that called in that we have not heard from. Lady, upstate New York, did you have commentary you wanted to add in as well? Oh, thought she was with us. Are you with us, ma'am? Lady in New York, are you with us?
Yes, may I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick comment with the caller who just spoke. I'm sorry that situation is happening with your friend in employment, but under this system, it's just you can't expect anybody to be able to help you, male, female. It's just designed that way. Even where I am, I have so much family. I thought that I would have so much help with child rearing, and it's just not there. Help with, I have many family members who are in the healthcare field who are literally in charge of hiring and firing, and I thought that would assist me. I've literally handed applications in to family, and they're like, "Hi, it's me. I haven't seen you in 5 years," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know who you are. Hi, how are you?" No, it didn't get me a job, didn't get me anything. So I've just learned to not expect anything from other victims because of the way the system is designed. When I do get assistance, when I do get to quote-unquote network and, get what I need, then I'm happy for it. But I've just automatically, my first thought is not to expect to be helped to advance from other victims. I wanted to talk about my lovely work week. Again, we do have white females at the job, not too many, It is primarily staffed with black males and females. However, I did meet one of the nurses this weekend who is a older white woman who has what are called so-called biracial children, and it was terrible. This white woman is the most attention-seeking white woman that I have encountered in a very long time. She is obviously accustomed to getting attention and having her way with black people. She looks like she possibly had some type of substance abuse issue at one point in her life, if not currently. Her behavior was very erratic. I do not know how she is employed as a nurse. She takes very frequent breaks. She's always off the floor, and if you are a nurse, you can leave your floor. You have to take a lunch break. You have to take your 15-minute break. You just tell the other nurse you're working with or whoever else is there that is nursing, doing some type of nursing duties as well. But this woman does not stay on the, I did a 12-hour shift, 2 12-hour shifts, and she didn't even stay 30 to 45 minutes on the floor without having to continuously leave and do something. On Saturday, which was my first day on the floor, I went because my cousin was training me. We went and we got some takeout. She ran to the elevator. Oh, I didn't know you were going out for lunch. And I said, oh, yeah, because I'm going out. I just said, oh, yeah, just not too much eye contact, not too much conversation, because I did not want to play the game of taking orders at work for different people. And some people have money, some people don't. So I hurried up and got out, came back, and she kind of had a discussion. Next time, tell me when you go to lunch. And I'm like, whatever, I'm not buying anything for you, or I'm not going to take your orders. I went out again and got some coffee, and she said something about that, and that was, these were my scheduled breaks, so it wasn't a problem. So this day I noticed that she did not really like me interacting that much with my cousin, even though she was training me. She would always jump in and try to give some type of training to me or training advice. But it was very manipulative because it would be so that I would do her work or my cousin would do her work so that she can leave and take a break. She was so terrible that she wound up leaving one of her patients on the floor. She did not know how long that patient was on the floor. The aide had to give her an approximate. She lied, falsified documents, called the nurse manager, told her a bunch of lies, and she wanted us, which is me, my cousin, and some of the aides, to do her job for her as far as getting this patient or this resident off the floor, which is not supposed to happen because we can't literally do assessments, but the nurse will tell her how to assess, and then you're supposed to call the RN back and give her whatever your findings were as far as vitals and things like that, neurological check. She decided that she was going to be off the floor, supposedly relieving the receptionist for her half-an-hour lunch break, which anyone else can do and a nurse should not be doing. But what she was really doing was making copies of coloring pages. So she plays this busy game where she's not really busy. She's just moving around like someone who has a problem with substance abuse and fidgeting all the time. So with her manipulative way, she says, because I had to go down and get her, I'm like, we cannot touch this man. We're going to get in trouble. I went down to get her after she played the game and kept calling back and asking my cousin to get him off the floor, and then told the aide to get him off the floor before she assessed him. So I went down. She didn't know I was standing behind her. She was literally just doing nothing, standing in front of the desk. And then she goes, oh, I know, I'm such a bad nurse, and this and that. I left my patient on the floor. But this is her theme to where she says all the things that she knows is true about her, that she knows she's doing, but she will try to make you seem like, you should have been thinking that because it's not really true. And she tried to blame it on the receptionist and saying the receptionist black receptionist, black female, has to get together and we have to figure out this lunch break thing. And it was like, no, what are you talking about? So she came on left again, saying I had to finish helping the receptionist. Still didn't get her patient up. Then the third time she came up. So after that, I was like, oh, wow, I have to make sure I stay clear of this woman. She will be the last person I train with because I know she's going to train me incorrectly, and she's going to have me frantic because that is the way she does things. Fast forward to Saturday, I asked the other black people, what's going on with her? And they pretty much said, again, she blames everyone else, doesn't really do her work. She likes, again, a lot of the females' attention. She makes them braid her hair. They can't go to lunch without her running, jumping down their throat about, get me this, get me that. I don't have my card today. I'll get you next time. So she just does this. Like my cousin is like, I can't stand her. She won't let me be. I'll be behind the desk doing my work, and then she'll jump on, oh, no, let me get you on the computer, and let me get on the computer and show you this. And she's like, I don't need training anymore. I've been here for months. But so she does that, and she did it again where she had to, we had to discard medicine. So she pretended as if she was showing my cousin how to do it, but what she was really doing was hers, and then gave my cousin half of her, all of her patients' medicine to discard, and then some of hers. So she just continues to do this. Sunday, I went in, and the actual director of nursing was in. She asked me how I was doing. I told her great, and I made the comment that I'm at 90%, but I didn't have any coffee, so I'm not at 100%. So the nurse, the director of nursing says, go get some coffee. I want some, but I don't drink coffee. And then she goes, I don't have my card. So I'm like, geez, I'm going to have to get the director of nursing. She's the one who hired me. Whatever, screw it. I'll get her some coffee, even though I don't want to do that. And I didn't expect for her to say she wanted something. So she gets on the phone, calls upstairs to the third floor, asking everybody. And I said, no, you need to stop. I'm not taking everybody's order. I will mess their orders up. So she hung up the phone. I said, I'm going to get something for you, my cousin, and then here comes the other nurse. So I'm like, oh, I don't want her to get in the habit of me getting her something. So she puts her order. Fine. She gives me the money. I said, I'll do it this time because the director's right here. If the director was not right there, I would have told her, no, I'm not. I don't take orders for everybody because I'll mess it up. So when we get there, I realized that she was 20 cents short. So I did not get her what she ordered because she was short. And her handwriting was terrible. I didn't even know what the paper said. So I got her something else and brung it back. And she was so angry that she barely talked to me the whole day, which is good because just the way she behaves is, I can't deal with it. She went and told everybody how she's the iced coffee queen, and she knows exactly how much money the iced coffee costs, and how could she be short. And everyone was laughing behind her back, and I was like, oh, man, what did I do? This white woman's going to get me back. So everyone's calling me, what do they call me, Petty Betty or something like that. And she was pretty much mad the whole day and talking about she was going to go get this person to get her coffee. So she wound up getting somebody else that worked there to go get her coffee for free. And she didn't drink the coffee that I bought her, and so I just wound up pouring it out. But that was how I got her to leave me alone from the ordering. But we went out again for lunch, and she runs to the elevator, catches my cousin, and she starts making all these faces and huffing and puffing. And so my cousin's like, what, you don't have money? She's, no, I don't. I have just my credit card. So my cousin has to get her lunch, and because my cousin had to get her lunch, I went without lunch because this was her day to buy me lunch. And so my cousin says, I can't find a way to get around getting her what she wants, or having her just all up in my space and giving me this fake training and suggestions, but pawning her work off on me. So later that day, she tells my cousin, why don't you train her on my cart? And I said, hold on. I need to finish my training over here. I'm going to get confused. I can't do both sides of the hall today. And she goes, oh, Jesus, because I have to do all this treatments and all this stuff. So really, she just wanted her to do her cart and for her not to work that day and to do both sides of the hallway. And I said, was she trying to get us to do her work? And my cousin goes, yeah, she was. This is what she does. And you better watch out because she will have you doing her work, signing on it, and if something goes wrong, you're going to be in trouble and you're going to lose your license. So it was a horrible experience because she changed the whole dynamic of the workday with her I don't know, her frantic behavior. I don't know what it is. And so that was me dealing with the white woman on the floor this weekend. I'll mute my line.
Wow. That is that is a lot to process, man. Super, super dangerous. Wow, even where to pick up. I know one thing that did pop into my mind regularly as you were sharing some of the horrors from the week. I would be very leery. This sounds like the type of person that, as you just stated, could cost a lot of people their job or their license, if not worse. I would be very, very careful, whatever you need to document, because if she's looking to blame things on the receptionist or whomever else, she could be stealing medication, continuing to use. I would, speculate that her substance abuse issues are probably not in the past. She might be still using whatever on her free time or while she is at work, even, since I would assume you all have medication at the facility. I would be very leery, as you said. It sounds like someone who could easily blame something on you and saying that this was my responsibility. But, hey, I told a lady to, check this patient or to do this or to log this in, and she didn't do it. So, this is on her. She agreed to do it. Like, I would be really, really leery with all my interactions, documenting things. I would try and avoid her as much as possible, and with everything, not coffee, not nothing, because it just sounds like someone who is a catastrophe waiting to happen, and is probably going to be something that gets blamed on other black people, since you said it's a lot of other black folks in the environment. If folks have comments or suggestions related to what Lady just said, hang tight. I just want to make sure that we get folks that we have not heard from at all to get in. Know our retired firefighter in Florida should be with us, the caller at 9938. Did either of you all have commentary you wanted to add, either your own personal situation or something else you wanted to share?
May I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Living Gus. My name is Moses, calling from Houston, Texas, by way of Queens, New York. First of all, before I get into my story, I want to tell you thank you so much for doing this show, this broadcast. I got turned on to you about a year and a half ago by Tariq Nasheed. He spoke very highly of you on one of his broadcasts, and I was like, I got to check out Gus' show. And I've been in love with the show ever since. My wife's been in love with the show ever since. This show has single-handedly changed my life. Single-handedly changed my marriage. Single-handedly changed my wife. We are codified. So thank you so much for everything that you do. I'm a small business owner in Houston, Texas,
and been in business for 2 years. When I came to New York, I started a logistics business, a little trucking business. I have 2 trucks, me and my partner, and we contract for retail companies, and we deliver to retail stores, Bath and Body Works, et cetera, et cetera. But I had a situation that happened to me about 4 or 5 months ago. I was delivering to one of my stores, and I got to the store at 9 o'clock that morning. And most retail stores, you have to deliver at a certain time, basically, based on volume, and they have to make sure that they have people at the store to take the merchandise, because they have customers to take care of. So this store, the delivery time was 9 to 10 o'clock. I was there at 9 o'clock. I got to the back door. I rang the doorbell. Me and I have a young guy who works with me during the day. So there's 2 of us on the truck. And I rang the doorbell for about 25, 30 minutes. I'm still waiting. So I contacted the company that I contract for, and I told them I was at the location, and I've been waiting for about an hour. I have other deliveries to make. So the company contacted the store, but nobody picked up the phone. So they contacted the corporate. So evidently the corporate contacted the store and got in contact with the manager, and she came to the back door. A racist suspect, by the way. So she opened the door. She was already heated that the corporate office had contacted her. And she opened the door. She said to me, she was like, "You don't have to keep ringing my doorbell like that because I'm busy. I have customers." I was like, "I've been standing back here," very calmly. I said, "I've been standing back here for about 35 minutes, ma'am. I have other deliveries to make." She said to me, "You don't have to be so hostile to me. I am white, you know." In 2016, now she wasn't an older woman. She wasn't 50. She wasn't 60. She was in her mid-20s, 28, 29. And she said, "You don't have to be so hostile to me. I am white, you know." So I was very calm, and I responded. I said, "Okay, you are white, so I expect you to react like that." So the moment I said that, she said, "No, I'm not saying it like that. I'm saying I am a female. You don't have to be so hostile to me." I said, "No, ma'am, that's not what you said. You said you was white. How I have to talk to you like that? You are right. You are white, so I expect you to react like that." And she started going on, making a scene. And it was so puzzling to me, Gus, because she made a scene so much that her other co-workers came from the back, black co-workers, 2 girls, and started consoling her, hugging her and apologizing to her. And I'm standing there like, what the hell is going on here? They were apologizing to her and hugging her, and she was telling them, "No, you took it out of context. I didn't say that." And even my helper, the young guy who works with me, started consoling her. And this went on for like 35 minutes. I'm scanning my boxes. I'm still doing my job. And after everybody was hugging her and apologizing to her, she came back to me while I was scanning my boxes, trying to justify. "No, you took it out of context. You were so hostile. You were so upset. I could see it all in your face." And I was very, very calm. I have a very calm demeanor. I didn't say nothing to this woman. All I said was, "I've been staying here for 35 minutes. But since I've been back to the store like a few times, and every time I'm back in the store, she showed me pictures of her black. She has a black godson. She said she has a best friend who's black, and that's her godson. And she's always showing me pictures of her godson and always trying to converse with me. I'm very, very short with her, you know what I mean? And I think she can really tell. But I noticed since that incident, she's always trying to convince me that she's not a racist. And I just thought it was very, very powerful that she was very racist towards me, but then she had other black people consoling her after she made a very racist statement. Even my coworker started consoling her, hugging her and telling her, "Oh my gosh," she was crying, and and even the black girls got mad at me. Why did you get upset at her? I'm like, I didn't get upset at her. And it was hugging her. I just thought that was very, very powerful. And that's all I called, just to share that and just to get your perspective on it.
Wow. That is spectacular. Make it plain. I mean, it does not get any more flagrant than that. You don't have to be so hostile with me. I am white, like spectacular. Make it plain. Love that. In terms of the response and the other victims coming in to console her, that is standard operating procedure. Unfortunately, that is how we have been trained. That's what I say all the time. It's so important. I feel like that is a major aspect of counter-racism, is not helping whites. That's why I say that. I know for some people, particularly if you're first beginning to understand racism, white supremacy, and people hear that and they're like, what? That is, crazy. And what are you talking about? You help anybody? No, that is how we have been contaminated. Unfortunately, that's why you have movies like The Help and The Green Mile and Gone with the Wind, where that is our role, where whites will praise us for that, being willing to help and even give our lives to help other whites in a system of white supremacy. So I'm not surprised that even your coworker, unfortunately, went to console this, savage race soldier. I'm so glad that you called in, because I hear people all the time where they say that this will solve the problem of racism if we just go into business for ourselves. If you are self-employed, if you're an entrepreneur, that this will end all of our trials and tribulations with white supremacy. And I say that is fantasy. That's as bad as thinking that there are good whites, put that in quotes, that it just is going to change how you have to deal with racism, white supremacy. So just my quick fast forward, make sure we get our caller, retired firefighter, in as well. But just my quick synopsis, and then we should have time for other people want to give thoughts or suggestions in terms of, I'm not really sure what to do, because in my view, if it's just one white person and a bunch of other non-white people, and the other non-white person is comforting and consoling the white person, it becomes very, very difficult, because then everybody is just going to attack you. If you seem like you have a problem with things, or you don't like what's being done, or even, I would think, even in that instance where you've wasted all this time for this tacky, little race soldier, and it's, hey, we're late, we got deliveries, you're not the only person that... Go ahead.
And Gus, are you there?
Yes, sir.
And no, you just said something so powerful. My whole day was ruined just based on that one situation. Two of my deliveries I couldn't make because I spent so much time at that store with these people trying to console this woman. It reminds me of a show that you did I think it was a few years ago. I was listening to your old podcast, old broadcast, and that was I forgot, she was a writer, and she was at a conference for black people, and she started crying, and everybody started consoling her. I forgot her name. She was on the show a while ago, and you kind of called her out for that. And that was a similar situation with me, Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I know Pharrell Winfrey did that. I was going to say she's a white, but she's an admitted white supremacist, but she did that and talked about it, how a black male at the conference called her out for doing this. She was at some conference. They were talking about racism. She started crying, and the same thing happened. Everybody went to give her attention and rub her back, and, oh, you're the greatest thing ever. It's been a few whites I think we've had on the program over the years where that's...
I mean, the two African-American young ladies who work at the store were so upset at me. I mean, so mad. What did you do to her? Girl, she's so sweet. What happened? And I'm like, what the hell just happened here? It went on for 45 minutes. She was crying. It was hugging her. Even my coworker, when we got back in the truck, he was like, man, it was very cold, man. You didn't even say nothing to her. She was trying to talk, engage with you. You was very standoffish. You made her feel bad. I was like, did you hear what she said to me? He said, I think you took it out of context. I was like, how can I have taken it out of context? He's like, no, I think she was just emotional, so she just said that. And you took it out of context. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to mute my line, Gus. I've been in business for 2 years. I've caught more hell, okay, from suspected racists than when I was working for other people, just to get contracts. Okay, I started with this company. I was making 60-40 as a contractor. Every year, it seemed like to change my contracts. It goes from 50-50, now it's 40-60. Intentionally. The moment that it seemed like you're making money, they'll always flip the contracts. It's so bad. I'm willing to put a white face on my company just to get better contracts. 2 years I've been in business. But I'm going ahead and mute my line, man. Thank you so much for taking my call, sir.
Amazing. Thank you so much for context. Again, and that's another one, just to put a tab on it, where I said earlier, where I was talking about the situation where it was a black teacher and he had a black teaching assistant, and the black teaching assistant was coming in late and doing all these incorrect, unprofessional things. And I said, I don't think he would do that if he had a white teacher that he was working for. Same thing here. I think he would have had a drastically different experience if this had been a black male or a black female who had been 30 minutes late and then opened the door, and, however they respond, same. So I think it would have been drastically different. I do not think your coworker or anybody else, any other non-white people would have rallied and said, oh man, what are you being hostile for? And, you're so rude and stuff. I think that would have been a totally different situation if it had been a black person who had behaved in the same way. Retired firefighter, the caller at 4362, and the caller from a block number. I think these are all people we have not heard from. If you all had commentary you wanted to share, your own situation or comments, you should be with us.
Greetings. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm going to file the last caller's testimony away into my counter-racist files when it comes to non-white black people who are quote-unquote self-employed. Very interesting story. Just to add on to that very quickly, what's the white female's name?
Farrell Winfrey.
Yeah, Farrell Winfrey. She has a bad habit of doing that. Mr. Fuller shared with me about a month ago that she was routinely calling him over and over and over again, and he had to tell her to stop calling him. Go solve the problem. Basically what Mr. Fuller said he had to tell his white female. They are very skilled at that particular strategy and behavior, that racist behavior. They're very skilled at it. And they understand, white people understand our reaction when they come with that type of emotion. So they're very skilled at it, and they know what kind of reaction that we're going to give to them, and it's to be expected. Is all I have to say on that. It should be expected to those of us who are attempting to be codified. At the beginning of the program, with Mr. Fuller speaking about the consistency on the job with black people, with the insults under the guise of joking, because even in our confusion, we understand the tension that exists in the people activity and employment, but a lot of us can't articulate, or we're not codified. So therefore, as a reaction, we do this clowning and joking and insulting and loud about it. On the job that I retired from, I saw it for the most part in what was called on the job battalion meetings. You have several stations within what is called a battalion to meet at a fire station, and that will bring about maybe 20 somewhere around 20 to 25 individuals from their different units, rescue trucks, fire trucks, at one station with the chief basically supervising the meeting for wherever it is. Maybe a union, some kind of union information, insurance, or even something about fire or rescue work, that sort of thing like that. And it would always, almost exclusively, be non-white black males, quote unquote, cutting the food, clowning, as entertainment. It'd be comedy central, to be expected. I recall one time reporting on the program that I had to actually go about the means of convincing a non-white black male not to put on a gorilla mask and go into the meeting, one of the battalion meetings. He was en route to go inside of a fire station with a gorilla mask. Now, what he was going to do with that, I do not know. But I kindly pulled him to the side and asked him, would you please not wear that mask in the fire station in the meeting? Because I feel I would have to go about the means of defending the reaction that you will be getting, which would not be good, and I don't want to have to go through that. Would you please, just please, do not wear that mask? I actually had to do that. Moving on, something good and constructive. On the job as being a high school football coach, there's been weeks where there was concern about, pregame meals, which is a meal before the game, for nutritionary purposes. It's also down here in South Florida. It's humidity big time, and it still is like summer. So it's common in athletic events the athletes would have muscle cramps, and what took place was a level of the players' mothers. We're talking about black females. Black females, just in a matter of a few moments, organized, got it together, and they are fixing those kids. I don't want to say kids, but fixing those young black males meals after practice. And I went to them and thanked them and said, this is a lesson for me in self-respect, and I'd like to thank you for your time and effort and what you've been doing. They raised their own money, got the food together, fixed it, prepared it, and served it to their sons and other people's sons. Just thought came to my mind about everybody and their reports, and just to understand what I've learned, there are layers and layers that the white supremacists put between themselves and their victims, and the layers are actually a non-white victims, period, with different levels of codification. Of course, non-white black people are probably for the most part at the bottom of the list of being mistreated, as well as uncodified within that process, and in turn it leaves a large level of non-white people, especially non-white black people, being mistreated on a daily basis, because we're talking about white people who may not individually or personally like each other, but they are codified. They are codified in this process, and they know that their victims, for the most part, are not codified. And also, even outside of the realm of non-white people, there are other issues they bring into the employment process to further confuse their victims. Separate things that they make up, like the quote-unquote homosexual rights, as well as gender, is another situation that causes a lot more confusion, because the bottom line is what is a weapon used by the racist white supremacists is deception, and deception causes confusion. And so the more, the better for them. It would discourage non-white people into being codified, but it actually is the only answer to solving the problem. And in turn, we all know two of the biggest attributes into making things as good as possible on the job is the understanding of equal protection under the law and due process that we need to very much pay attention to on a daily basis. There's so many things to be noticing and paying attention to, on the job in that light. And I'm just mentioning how the racists are able to confuse the issue because they're very codified. And thank you for listening.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, and also commendation to those black parents, black mothers for going out and black self-respect to organize and help the black children deal.
I mean, they were super. They were super. I mean, it was almost like as easy as getting up in the morning and brushing your teeth and combing your hair. That's how smooth it was. And see, at the same time, all of the administrators, for the most part, are either white people or non-white, non-black people. So they're expecting, the whole thing is going to be a failure, that sort of thing. And they have funding. They have funding that could take care of that problem. But one thing, I'm so proud of them. They weren't waiting on that. They wasn't waiting on that. They understood the problem because they sit up in the stands and watching some of the boys cramping and whatnot, and they said that's not going to happen anymore. We're going to take care of this problem, and can't be more codified than that. Can't be more codified than that, and seeing a problem and then going about the means of solving it. And very proud of them, and I brought that to their attention. Thank you.
Ashe, spectacular. The people, we have not heard from the caller at 3637. You should be with us. Caller from a blocked number, and I think the caller at 4362. Did you all have comments you wanted to get in?
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I work at a public school, a public school district in the Chicagoland area. Majority black public school of children. I probably estimate it's about 99% black children in the school. It's a school district with a couple of schools. It's a school district with a couple of schools that are all K through 8, and one is a early childhood school. In this field of and I'm not an educator, I work as a professional within the school district, so I get a chance to visit all the schools during my time. And it gave me a perspective of how racism and white supremacy is being implemented on, with black children on an early level. Now, this is a school district that doesn't have what they call very high scores in testing and grades and very poor attendance, according to the Illinois Educational Board. Now, this is also a school. This is also a school district that has an all black. What do they call it? What is it? Well, it has a black superintendent. All the principals are black. But you go into the schools, and there is nothing but white women teaching these kids. And if somebody looking at it from the outside was like, well, you got all black, you got all these black principals,
and you got a black superintendent and a black school board, that's what I was trying to say, you know, what's going on? Take a look at the schools. They got all, and then here's my experience with them. I walk by the classroom, and generally the way some of these women talk to these children, it's like demeaning and degrading. And I also listen to some of these white women, talk about the children, and obviously, coming from a black suburb, there's going to be issues, but it's almost like a sense of pity and just how white women are with young black boys, they, instead of helping them, they're just pitying them, and it just doesn't help our children. And so, when people ask me about that, I'm like, well, look, why don't you take a look inside the schools and look who's actually teaching the kids? It's all white women. It's all white women. This is why our kids are failing in the public school system. I'm getting a first-hand look at this. And it's just basically amazing me. Now, here's another thing, all right? The school district recently hired a business and finance director. Now, I Googled his name. What is the first thing that comes up with his name? This guy got fired from a job as a business director 5 years ago in an all-white school district for lying to the school board about misappropriated funds. So this guy was stealing. And then he gets a job with our school district. He's a white guy. And I'm going to tell you this, Gus. When I see him, he has this sinister look on his face that I'm like, and I just can't believe that they hired this guy. But, I mean, this is racism and white supremacy at work right here. I mean, you could get fired for misappropriating, stealing from another school district and get immediately hired in a black school district. I mean, it's just crazy. So, basically, it's just watching the education system, especially the public education system, and watching all these white people within this district just take down our children's education. It's just, it's sad. And this is one of the reasons why I will never put my daughter in a public school. And I'll mute my line.
Thank you for sharing that. I know Gus T Renegade not that long ago said that white women were at the center of what they call the school to prison pipeline. One of our guests, Dr. Travis Brickle, that's his area of expertise. He does education on research. He's at Stanford University in California. He said that Gus was talking crazy. Once again, 70% of the teachers in public schools in this part of the world are white women. To me, it seems as obvious as 1 and 1 being 2, but hey. People that we have not heard from. The caller 3637 and I think 44362. Do we hear from either of you yet?
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Good evening to everyone. I just wanted to share a incident. It's actually with my offspring. She's a teenager. She goes to school, of course. She's in high school. So she told me she's aware that I listen to the cows and I try to be codified with using counter racism. She tells me that she's in class and all of her teachers are suspected racist. And this particular teacher was discussing, I guess, human behavior, what's considered normal and what's not considered normal. And then one of the non-white black female students brought up something about interracial dating, of course. She was saying that one of her friends was in a interracial relationship with a white male. And the black female student voiced her concern, saying that she wasn't quite sure that she accepted it or she didn't approve of that relationship.
And then the suspected racist white male teacher said, well, you probably don't like that relationship because the male is white. So basically, he's accusing her of being this reverse racist, so to speak. And then, I guess the teenagers were discussing, interracial relationships and stuff like that. And they were and then I guess the suspected racist teacher, posed the question, what's the most common interracial relationship that's seen, I guess, on the campus of the high school? And, they were, throwing out different answers. And then finally they said, black females and white males. And then they said, oh, no, that's not the most common one. The most common one is, black males and white females. So this suspected racist teacher said, why do you think it's not black females and white males? And then, basically he's allowing the students to do his racist bidding for him, to make these racist comments or whatever without him having to do it himself. And they were like, oh, yeah, black females are loud and they're, ghetto and they always want to fight and they're argumentative and stuff like that. And, I guess he's just listening and just satisfying his little racist appetite by getting these children to say the racist things that he wants to say. And then I guess he said, take a look around campus. Who do you guys think? Who do you all think is the loudest, type of group of people around the campus? So again, these students are like, oh yeah, black females, of course. They're just loud and boisterous and obnoxious and ghetto. And then I guess he offers this explanation as to why black females are loud. He was saying that black people have such large families or whatever. They have just so many offspring that in order to be seen, in order to get any type of attention amongst their family or to eat or I guess whatever, is to be loud. So that's like the reasoning or the logic behind black females being loud. And of course my daughter, she brought this to my attention and she knew that it was illogical and that it was racist. But I suspect that this type of stuff is going on with throughout the country and throughout the world. They're just they're attempting to brainwash children with racist ideas. Well, they're trying to brainwash black children in particular to be to practice anti-blackness and just to reinforce the racist behavior of white students. But that's all I wanted to share. Thank you very much.
I have no idea where that would fit in the curriculum, teaching about how loud black females are or tragic, or I have no idea what that has to do with fundamentals of educating children. But again, my puny Negro-sized brain might just not be able to do the computations. The caller 3637, do you have commentary?
Yes, may I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. It's caller from the 712. I'm calling with another update from the job that I called, I think it was last month. I was the person that they tried to get me to do something at my job, and I didn't want to do it, but I still went ahead and did it. This time, I'm suffering from an injury at my job, and they wanted me to do a job that was going to further injure me, so I refused to do that job because I was already hurt. I didn't want to get hurt more, and they fired me because I wouldn't do that job. I had job refusal. They brought me into HR. They wanted to know, did I know why I was being brought in there? And I told them it's probably because I'm getting a raise because I'm an outstanding worker, and they all laughed. And then it got serious, and they're like, no, we're going to have to let you go. And it was, they used attendance against me. You can't have so many attendance points, and I know every job does this. And I end up with my injury. I was calling in. I was injured. And the limit is like 14 points, and I think I had like somewhere around like 40, 50 points. So in reality, I was supposed to be terminated probably months ago, probably back in when it was cold out around here in December, January. But they used that in HR. They said it was for my attendance, and I asked them, I have so many points. That's interesting that you're calling me in here now and saying that it's because of my attendance. And I went through the whole unemployment thing. If anybody knows about unemployment, you have to get over on the phone and your former employee, and you do an over the phone, I guess, mock trial or whatever. But the people that I were working for, they didn't even bother to come on the phone. So I am getting a little bit of assistance with my unemployment payments, but I'm not able to go to work because I'm still suffering from the injury that I got from my previous employer. So they're still paying for my physical therapy. They're paying for my medicine, and but other than that, I got fired, and they were able to use the attendance because it was true. I did miss a lot of days because of my injury, but they covered it up like it was because of my attendance, but in reality it was because I refused to do it. That was the first time I refused to do a job out there, and I wouldn't do it. And so that's my update on that job, and I'll be out here again. I got a strong resume, and this is a city that has a lot of job opportunities, so I'm not concerned about it. It's just it was decent money. It was more money that I have made. I've only worked hourly jobs, but I'm not really concerned about the job. Me finding another job. It's just, I don't know. They just keep doing this horrible stuff to people, and they have signs posted up like they're concerned about if you do get hurt, but I don't think that they are. And that is my workplace racism. Thank you.
Wow. I am sorry to hear that. That is the audio segment we had at the very beginning of the program. I think it was the last little bit of what Mr. Fuller was sharing, where he said if racists, if they want to get rid of you, there's nothing you can do to stop it. Whatever reasoning they come up with, that again is the system of racism, white supremacy. And typically that sort of thing, if you are demonstrating some black self-respect, you have an injury, I'm not able to do this, that sort of retaliation that was also in the beginning audio clip, that sort of thing is super common, and that's where they'll just go and say, oh, well, you missed this amount of days, for whatever reason, and we just can't have people. I think Mr. Fuller even talked about that before as well. We just can't have you, missing all these days. That's not, they might even throw the F word in there. It's not fair to your other coworkers to keep missing all this time, and then they have to do extra work and all that, and we're so sorry it didn't work out, and make up a lot of nonsense excuses. But and that is a part of it as well, just to have us demoralized, and you have to keep going back through the employment process, and as you said, having these little mock trials, as you called it, when you have to call to try to get some help from unemployment, that sort of thing. Just all of that to demoralize us. It destabilizes you. You might have to move. It can cause such a disruption to your life, to your career. You have to keep trying to find new jobs and things. That's why I encourage, if you can, to try to minimize that to the best of our ability. But that is exactly what racists have planned for us, to just keep job to job, whether, they make us frustrated enough where we leave, or whether they find some nonsense reason to terminate us. That is exactly how the system is supposed to be rolling, 2016, unfortunately. Did we miss anybody? I know Roz had a commentary. And make sure we get him in before we get ready to wrap. Is it anybody we have not heard from at all? Voice has not been spoken.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
I'm just Thank you, sir. Greetings to Gus, the host, the listeners and callers. I have a few observations. There was an incident in the past that I was thinking about where, like I know you mentioned about helping white people. This was on the job, so like since I move around a lot, like there would be like sometimes black people and white people, they'll request if I could bring them like something back, like a snack or something. And like it was one time where like a white woman, she said, like could I get a Diet Coke or something? So like I had got the change from her, and she was like, oh thank you, you're so tall and dark, She used the word dark. She said, you're so tall and dark. And like I thought about, how Dr. Wilson, she pointed that out on Phil Donahue, like the tall, dark, and handsome, that old phrase. And like I remember it was like a white person walking by, and she said, oh yeah, I wanted a dark Coke. And then the woman said, no, you mean a Diet Coke. So like that's very interesting. Like a change of a word, Coke, the Coke products, dark in color. So that was the first one, and like the second was like this black female. She was telling me how, like that white male supervisor, he was trying to, I guess, extract some kind of viewpoint on the race issue from her, because he was trying, I guess, bait her into saying something by saying, oh, like this person that I used to have working for me, she used to accuse me of being a racist, and what would you think of that? And then she said, like she ain't fall for it. She just basically said, you know what, Blink, I'm not really into talking about that here, and I just know my place around here. So that's what she said. So whatever that meant. And that, like, the next one was, they're like this another black female in my department, like talking about how the University of Florida, like how we were like the white supremacists at the university have practiced racism toward black quarterbacks like throughout the history. And she said she knew of somebody that was mistreated because they're not white, who had very good skill, like you said in the past. Even though if you have like a prowess as an athlete, like that's like that still don't matter, because you still aren't, you're not a white person. So she was saying that they have this kind of thing called the Bull Gators for University of Florida, where you have you like, she was saying, do you see those people with these RVs and these expensive luxurious vehicles during the college football season? And I was like, yeah, I seen them. And she said, yeah, those are considered the Bull Gators. So I asked her, like, what is that term right there you keep saying? Oh, you mean Bull Gators? And I said, yeah. And she didn't really have a definition for it, but that was the term she was told by her father. I guess they use an alumni. So, just very high level white supremacist activity, and she was just trying to say that, I guess, that since they, I guess, donate money, they don't want, black quarterbacks on the field. So this is how you end up with a Tim Tebow, because even though he doesn't have the skill to be in the pros, he still gets offers and all kinds of good treatment, in a Jesus jersey. But the last thing I wanted to share was there was this document I was reading about the it was talking about underutilization, and it kept saying like females and minorities, like them being targeted groups. And like that word female, it reminded me of that one caller who was saying, I am white, and aren't I? And then she switched it by saying I am female. So like I thought about how those words are synonymous and interchangeable, at least that's how they, they made it seem in this document. And they were saying, well, white females are underrepresented for officials and professionals and all these different titles. But when it came to black females, and they listed Hispanics, the titles became shorter. But the most prioritized ones, when they was talking about people being underrepresented, were the white females. But I'm thinking, just like how I think you had said that they are 70% of the teachers, so it's like I don't see any underrepresentation. So when I'm looking at the numbers on this, I have to share more about it in the future, but I found it very interesting how they're practicing racism, because they'll say females and minorities, then they'll go and specifically say white females, and then black females, and make it seem like it's not that obvious. So that's pretty much all I had to share for now, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Strong representation from Florida today. I had never heard of that term before, bull gator. I have to ponder on that one. Definitely Welsing moment, if anyone has read the ISIS papers, her analysis of the bull and bullfighting and all of that. But that is, I'll have to ponder that, particularly if these are the whites that are responsible for having white Jesus on the gridiron, Mr. Tim Tebow, and him continuing to getting deals even though he is not qualified to be an NFL quarterback. He is going to be okay because he is white in a system of white supremacy. I think Ross had a commentary you wanted to share either on his own job or whatever you wanted to make sure you got in. Thank you for being patient, sir. Were you going to comment as well, Ross?
Yes, I was. I had a workplace observation and then just a couple of other things as well. The workplace observation was I was talking to a white female yesterday who called into my job. I work in the healthcare industry, and she was discussing just the change in pricing for the coverage for next year and how it was so high. And then she had made a statement about Obamacare, and basically saying that, this is becoming expensive. And then we had discussed the fact that 11 states, companies, healthcare companies, insurance companies in about 11 states are dropping Obamacare for the upcoming year. And as we were getting into this discussion, I said, were you aware that the policy, the Affordable Care Act, was not a policy that President Obama actually created? And she was like, yeah, I am. And she actually went into telling me the history of Bob Dole presenting this legislation back in the mid-'90s. And essentially, I just chimed in and said, the only policy they would allow him to put through was this particular policy. So I said nothing else. And then she actually went on to talk about it. She said, oh, well, I feel sorry for him, and, blah, blah, blah. And she's going on. And I just thought to myself, I was like, right there, you're lying right in this conversation, because you complained about so-called Obamacare, but yet when I ask you a question about whether or not you're aware this is a policy that he did not create himself, and it was the only policy that Republicans would allow him to put through, you were fully aware of that, And then she goes back into this whole discussion about how she felt sorry for Obama, and, how he really did the best that he could with what he was given in regards to the situation that he walked into when he took over the presidency. So I found that to be just very, very interesting. And then in regards to some of the people who have talked about when they become more codified, people that's actually saying to them that they're, becoming more introverted, or they're not, they don't have the right vibrations, or whatever terms these white people use to describe you not fitting into whatever racist paradigm that they set up at the plantations where we respectively work. And I found that one thing that kind of works for me is just the fact that in every job, I just lay the law down very early, in the sense that, and I say this every time we have a meeting where we have to introduce ourselves and meet other people, I say it right then and there, so everyone who I will be working with directly and whoever supervises, they hear it. And I say, I don't come to work to be friends with anyone. I don't come to work to talk about my private life. I come to work to do a job. And I always say, if I happen to become friendly with other people on the job as a result of our interactions for work-related things, then I look at that as a fringe benefit, but I don't come to work to befriend anyone. And I find that me just setting that precedent early and coming to work and being serious, I don't ever get the pushback that I've changed or I don't speak to anyone. I'm very cordial with folks. I've actually had other black males on the job who are codified tell me that they've always heard that I'm one of the so-called nicest people on the job. But I have a particular aura about me that, first of all, I'm serious, and I just have a very serious demeanor, but I'm a very approachable and friendly person. So just getting that from other codified blacks who might have heard either other white people and or other non-white people speaking about me, I think that tends to work for me. I don't know if it'll work for others, but I think it might. If you are beginning a particular place of employment, it definitely might not. If you've already been in that particular place of employment for a long period of time and you were not codified and then you become codified, they're definitely going to zero in on something like that. And then the last thing was yesterday I was coming home from work, and I'm at 34th Street Penn Station, and there's these television screens that have all of the different train lines that are going to different parts of New Jersey and other parts of the train station is going to different parts of the country, but I go to Jersey from New York City. So there's a huge crowd around the screen that I usually stand close to because it puts me in decent proximity to all of the different tracks that my train could potentially be on, which is about 12 of them. So it puts me right in an area where I can pretty much as easy as possible access any one of those 12 if they call that my train is on one of those tracks. So it was such a huge crowd around the screen that I actually walked around and got really close to the actual television where they had this stuff displayed, and I was literally right at the edge, and there was a crowd, literally just an incredible crowd just surrounding the screen. So after about maybe 5 to 7 minutes, this white guy touches me on the arm, and he asked me if I can step back because he can't see. So I gave him the look of death, and then I said to him, don't you ever put your hands on me, don't touch me. And I said, if you need to see, you can walk a few steps ahead and take a look like anyone else, just like I had to walk through this whole crowd just to get to where I'm standing. If you don't like it, I don't care, but do not touch me, and I have nothing else to say to you. So he looked kind of stymied for a minute, and he kind of looked a little bit red because there were a mixture of, white people and black people all waiting for the train. And I just gave him the look of death again, and then I proceeded to mind my business and look for my train. And that was my story. Thank you for hearing what I had to say this evening. I appreciate it.
For sure. The commute, that is also a part of workplace racism, having to deal with getting to and from the plantation and any white terrorism that you may encounter at any point in that journey. That for sure counts. We've had some other people who chimed in with their incidents of white terrorism or just problems with the commute as well. And that another illustration, black self-respect and not helping white people. Just simple things like that, particularly when you are not actually on the job in the physical location. Definitely. I mean, it should be, you really do not have to do much of anything with regards to aiding, assisting a white person, even taking a step to the side so that they can see, whatever information is on the billboard or the sign or, whatever they are attempting to do. That is our 3 hours. Grand to hear from everybody. I still did not get to read everything that folks wrote in, but we'll table them for next week. It was phenomenal hearing from everybody. I'm so glad that we got some black entrepreneurs to dial in to evidence what I have said, and I think others as well, that just being quote-unquote self-employed is not going to excuse you from racist, white supremacist labor practices. We will be here tomorrow, and this will just be an extension of some of what we talked about today, starting a new book, the great Sam Greenlee, his infamous 1969 novel, The Spook Who Sat by the Door. I think I won't say a lot, but I think a good number of folks have seen the movie adaptation of the book. The book is not exactly the same, so it will be grand to read and see the differences. But we are starting tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. A good chunk of that book is about workplace racism and some of the exact problems that we talked about this evening. Will be great to share thoughts, discuss. One of my favorite books. I've read it before. Will be grand to read it again and to hear it with y'all. I think a good number of people have not actually read the book, so tune in tomorrow. Compensatory call-in will be Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We'll catch up on what has gone down the last 7 days. As I stated earlier, Global Sunday Talk on Racism. That is this coming Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific. Hope it does not disrupt your football watching plans. Hopefully you can multitask and just put the sound on mute if you got to watch the sporting activities this coming Sunday. We'll also be here on Monday. We will have the return of Dr. Tommy Curry. He'll be here normal time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. So just stay tuned. We should be here every day now through Monday. If you have questions, problems, additional workplace racism incidents you want to share, guest suggestions, gripes, complaints, drop an email untiljustice@gmail.com. untiljustice@gmail.com. Again, thanks to everyone participating. I hope it has been a constructive investment of your Thursday evening. I will say again, sobriety would be best under conditions of white terrorism. It is one of the worst combinations in the universe. Whites, alcohol. You do not, if you're going to be behind the wheel, want to be under the influence of anything and have that be the day that you bump into Darren Wilson, Daniel Holtzclaw, race soldier, badge or no. We will wrap there. Creator, we ask that you help us remain patient with other black people, victims of white supremacy. We ask that you help us remain patient with ourselves. Remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time we are in contact with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cal signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. Problem. You're a victim. Man, I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning. Shut up. The man has programmed my condition. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.